Scotland tonight, giving some hill snow, particularly above about 450 metres, where we'll see some settling snow here. And another area of rain moving in from the southwest across England and Wales into the early hours, some of which could be quite heavy, accompanied by blustery winds, particularly towards the southeast. It's mostly a frost-free night with temperatures in mid-single figures. As for Monday, well, we hold on to a very unsettled picture. Low pressure still close by towards the west of the UK. So to start with on Monday, although there'll be some brightness towards the north of mainland Scotland, the rest of the country is likely to see some showery bursts of rain, again with some hill snow in places. Across Northern Ireland there'll be showery bursts of rain as well, and showery too across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So it's the south and east of England, some central parts too, that are likely to see the best of the early brightness. As we go through the rest of the day on Monday, with low pressure still close by, there'll be further outbreaks of rain at times in pretty much all parts of the UK. Occasional bright spells between, still some winteriness across the hills of Scotland at times, and wherever you are, a pretty blustery day with some gales, particularly down towards the south and southwest at times through the day. And despite some sunshine at times, those temperatures will be struggling. Highs of 6 to 9 Celsius, 9 down towards the southwest. It's 48 in Fahrenheit, but add on the effect of that unsettled weather and feeling much cooler out and about. As for Tuesday, well, with low pressure still over the top of the UK, there'll be further showers to come at times. Again, some of those could be quite heavy at times. The winds do start to ease down, so probably feeling a little bit better when we get the sunshine between those showers, with temperatures still peaking at around the 10 Celsius mark. So Tuesday and Wednesday continue pretty unsettled, further rain at times, but things do start to quieten down later in the week with some sunshine around.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. And the question is President Trump headed to Britain?
The Prime Minister becomes the first European leader to speak with the President.
As they tease a possible state visit during a 45-minute phone call.
Colombia capitulates to Donald Trump's trade tariff threats after initially refusing to accept illegal immigrants sent by America.
The King set for a moving visit to Auschwitz today, 80 years after the concentration camp was liberated. Survivors sharing their stories.
We need to speak up. The government should take a very strong action now, before it's too late.
Rachel Reeves feels the pressure as businesses across the country push the Chancellor to get the economy moving.
And in the sport this morning, Spurs' dismal run continues as they lose to a Leicester team who've lost their last 7 games. Manchester United win away at Fulham, and Yannick Sinner wins the Australian Open but could be banned for the rest of the season.
Hello, good morning. I'm afraid we've got a very unsettled day to come across the UK today. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain pretty much nationwide, coupled with blustery winds too. I'll have all the details later.
But right now, very good to see you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
Now, I know bad news to report from Tottenham today, but the good news is, Paul, that you had a very special visitor. It was a very special visitor at the ground yesterday, Miss Ellie.
Yes, I had a lovely time.
Did you have a lovely time?
I will go again if football looks like that.
Well, so I'm thinking 1 game, 1 loss, but then again, and when Eamonn came, Spurs won, didn't they?
They did.
So maybe you're the lucky charm.
So I think maybe, although you didn't have quite so lovely time.
But I came to watch the football. She didn't come to watch the football.
I came for the champagne.
I did notice in the second half, I looked over and there was an empty seat where Ellie was supposed to.
I didn't even watch the second half. It's very bad, isn't it?
But the thing is, there was probably about 20,000 Spurs fans didn't watch the second half after the start of that as well. So you weren't alone.
The first half was good. I feel like I saw, oh, there it is. And Ellie Phillips was there.
Yes.
The showbiz reporter.
Yeah, our showbiz reporter. So we had a lovely day, didn't we? The three of us. We had a GB News reunion.
You even had the right colours on as well. You had a little blue and white going on.
Me, so it's her invitation. Thanks, Ellie. And she texted and said you have to wear blue, and I was like, I don't think I own it.
She didn't. Did she really?
Yeah.
Really?
She said you have to wear blue.
Oh.
And the men had to wear suits.
Very nice. Yeah, very good.
So I pulled out a blue jacket.
Well, it would. As soon as you were saying the champagne was nice there. It's not just, most people aren't drinking champagne at a football match.
I would like to tell you about, maybe later, is when Ellie met Pat Jennings.
Oh, Big Pat. She showed, what? Well, she showed me a picture this morning, and I said, who was there? She said, well, there were these, and this guy here.
So he had big hair.
The first question was, so did you play football? And I'm saying, this is the greatest goalkeeper of all time. And then she went, hold on, and then you played for Arsenal? Really?
Yeah.
That was a fair question.
There you go.
Well, it's a nice man.
We had a lovely day.
Good.
Everybody loved you, Ellie. Everybody loved you.
So whatever you did over the weekend, I hope you had a lovely day. You may want to share it with us.
And Quitty was very good at his job.
Yeah,
and I know it is his job.
I love the surprise.
But you're very,
it was
very good.
actually very good at his job.
You're very, very good, and the crowd loved you, so it's really fun to see you at work. I know I see you at work every day,
He's very good at what?
He's very good at his job.
No, what would you say, the power of love?
No, the crowd loved him.
Loved him.
The crowd
loved him.
The crowd loved him. Yes,
that's
very
nice.
popular man, Quitty.
Very good.
Some said that they were still booing me when the team was on. This is what the problem was.
Dear. OK, speak later, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get into the news. And the Prime Minister and President Trump have agreed to meet soon, following a phone call between the two of them last night.
Well, they discussed the importance of close and warm ties between the UK and the US.
But all eyes are on Trump's trade war with Colombia as he threatened a 25% tariff after they refused to accept returning illegal immigrants.
Well, Colombia quickly capitulated, with their foreign ministry stating the country had overcome the impasse with the US, not only agreeing to accept the migrants, but sending a presidential plane to collect them.
Let's get more commentary on this. Political commentator Theo Usherwood with his view on this. You see, I looked at this and I thought to myself, talk tough, this Trump form of negotiation seems to be getting the job done. Could other countries learn from this?
It works, doesn't it? And of course, you've got the front pages of the Telegraph and the Times going on this, on the line of this warm and personal phone call between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer. But they didn't get into the nitty-gritty of the key issues between Britain and the US. We don't have a decision yet, a formal decision yet, on whether Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, is going to be the UK ambassador to Washington. That's still in Donald Trump's in tray. Is he going to approve it? The Chagos Island deals, 2 weeks ago, the Foreign Office were trying to get it over the line. Then, of course, we knew that Donald Trump and Marco Rubio, the incoming Secretary of State, were going to look very dimly on it because, of course, it would give key influence to China and a very strategic, just very close to a strategic military base at Diego Garcia for the United States. No decision on that. In fact, the UK's now handed it over to Donald Trump to have the final say on the deal. And then the key issue, another key issue, is defence spending. Of course, Donald Trump would like us, all countries, NATO countries, to be pulling their weight when it comes to spending on defence. He's sick and tired of the United States funding NATO, supporting NATO, especially with the war in Ukraine, and that's got to come to a resolution. He'd like to see 5% of GDP in each country spent on defence. And Keir Starmer hasn't even set out a timetable as to when he plans to hit 2.5%. The Tories said they'd do it by 2030.
The Times are leading with this today. They're saying, Starmer, no go over the cash for defence, because basically he's saying the country's broke.
Yes.
So
the Treasury are putting their fingers in their ears and saying, la, 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 we're not going to listen to this, because, of course, it would cost something like £75 billion for that uplift of to 2.3 to 2.5% of GDP by 2030. It's not one of the country's priorities, and you point to the polls going back to the general election. People don't see defence spending as a key issue. They see it as NHS, in education, dealing with immigration. But you're reporting on what happened with Donald Trump and Colombia. He sent over 2 planes of illegal criminals who'd been found in the United States back to Colombia. The Colombians said, no, we're not going to let those planes land. Donald Trump turns around and goes, right, those tariffs, 25%, they're now 50%. 2 hours, the Colombian president has turned around and said, don't worry, I'll send my own plane. We'll take them. We'll take those nationals back to Colombia. He's not messing around, Donald Trump, and I think the concern has got to be within government. He could take a similar approach to negotiations with this country. If we're saying, no, we're going to hang around on 2.3% of GDP on defence, Donald Trump could say, well, what does that do for... why should I continue to support Ukraine if Vladimir Putin isn't going to come to the table and do a deal? These are really serious questions that not only Keir Starmer but other European nations are facing around as well, because Trump isn't messing about this time round.
Yeah, and with the threat of tariffs, so Keir Starmer is choosing his words very carefully, isn't he? I thought it was quite interesting how he said yesterday he wants to deregulate in order to boost growth, which is a magic word around President Trump, isn't it?
There's a lot of warm words. If you think about, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, she's got a key speech. She's saying she wants a bit of Trump boosterism when it comes to economic growth. Of course, many of these Labour politicians now in the government holding key positions in government, whether it be Keir Starmer or David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, were very rude about Donald Trump when they were in opposition. And now they're finding themselves, kowtowing to Mr. Trump because they know that he is a man who is serious about his agenda and, as he would put it, putting America first, and that we don't want to end up in the UK on the wrong side of him. But that could mean, whether it be defence or the Chagos Islands, something the Labour are hoping to do, that could mean making some decisions that Keir Starmer doesn't want to make.
We're opening to tickling his tummy, though, to flattering his ego. A state visit is on the cards.
Donald Trump's he likes family. He believes in family, doesn't he? He likes the pageantry. He's always complimentary when he visited the late Queen Elizabeth II with that state visit. He really enjoyed that. You think about the Trump dynasty, you think about our own royal family, the parallels there for Mr. Trump. And I'm sure that the King, and he's very complimentary about Prince William, he particularly liked his beard, I think. We spoke about his beard. But, I'm sure, the royal family in this country have a really important duty. People sometimes think about the royal family as, well, they're just there and they're costing the taxpayer money. But they have a really important duty, especially at times like this, where we need to build bridges with key allies. And Donald Trump is obviously a fan, so I'm sure the King Charles and Prince William are going to play a key role in just smoothing relations with the White House. That, as Donald Trump says, he's not a liberal, but he likes Keir Starmer. There is not a natural agreement agreement there on the sort of world view between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. And I think the royal family will play an absolutely crucial role in just smoothing relations.
That soft diplomacy and that soft power that we
So
hear
exactly
so very
that.
much about. Yeah.
Exactly that.
OK, thank you very much, Theo Ashford.
Cheers, Theo. We'll talk again later. And I've got to talk to you now. Want to know what your view is as we run our poll of the day.
Yes, today we're asking, as Trump gets tough, do you trust our Prime Minister to do what it takes to deport illegal migrants? Well, you can get involved throughout the day. You can go to gbnews.com/poll, or you can scan the QR code on your screen.
Right, so the point being that Trump basically says, you don't take this lot back and I'm going to slap 25% tariffs on your goods coming from your country, and I'm going to do it in the next 2 hours or so.
And I'll up them to 50 if you don't do it.
Yeah, so then everybody goes, oh, let's do something about this. But I think this just shows how Britain, Europe, whatever, doesn't talk tough, can't talk tough, people don't want to talk tough, and we will continue to head absolutely nowhere on this issue like a lot of other issues with it, because I just don't think people have the ability. People, you see, I find politicians and people who do business in this country, where they're slightly different than the Irish, for instance. The Irish often say things up front and they say what they mean and whatever. Everything I find in England is they say one thing and they mean another, and they won't, they'll be, oh, we're kind and we care for you and we whatever. No, they don't. They're doing everything behind the scenes and whatever. Like politicians, they just cannot say the truth. They cannot tell the truth and say, we don't want to do this, or we're not going to do this, or whatever. So the theory is, could Starmer ever get tough enough to say, right, we're going to do this, and if we don't do this, if you don't take these people back, we're going to boycott this or do that or do something really tough.
Well, Trump's talking tough, isn't he? And it's worked so far. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll-say. I think there'll be many eyes in Europe looking over at Trump and looking at this success and thinking perhaps we need to be taking a leap out of his book. Let us know what you think. Now, at 12 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
The Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before his deadly attack. Alex Rudakabana, who murdered 3 young girls and tried to kill 10 others, downloaded an Al-Qaeda training manual and watched graphic footage online just before the stabbing spree. Yvette Cooper says it's unacceptable that such hateful content remains easily available, urging tech companies to take immediate action ahead of new online safety laws in March. So there's an example of what we're talking about, talking tough. What's she saying? She urges them. Why doesn't she just say, if you don't do this by midnight tonight, I'm going to do that?
You're going to know about it. Yeah, exactly. Well, this all comes as the government cracks down on online knife sales after it was revealed that Axel Rudakabana purchased his murder weapon on Amazon when he was just 17. Buyers will now need to show photo ID at the point of purchase and again when the knife is delivered, with packages banned from being left on doorsteps.
Hamas is set to release 6 hostages, and Israel will allow Gazans to return to homes from today. Since the ceasefire deal came into force, 7 hostages and just under 300 prisoners have been released.
Pharmacists have issued a warning over the online sale of weight loss jabs, insisting there is still a potential risk to patient safety. The National Pharmacy Association has written to regulators calling for tougher rules after it was made aware of people who previously had eating disorders or those with low body weight being wrongly prescribed the drug.
Today's going to be a bit blowy, a bit wet. Marco Patenga with exactly the weather picture.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some dry weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather, so across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK, but as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK, and again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, if you're aged between 13 and 30, it is highly likely that you're in favour of turning Britain into a dictatorship, according to a study that has revealed an acceptance of authoritarianism and radicalism amongst Generation Z. Z or Z? Or Z, it is. So this is what we're talking about. Trump says, this is what I'm going to do, and if you don't do it, there will be repercussions. And we're saying, would Britain have the guts to do that? And that needs a sort of dictatorship to do that. So more than half, 52%, said they thought that the UK would be a better place if a strong leader was in charge who doesn't have to bother with Parliament and elections.
Well, a strong leader's one thing, a dictator's a whole other thing altogether. I think you'd be careful
what about
what
a
you
benign
wish for.
dictator? A benign dictatorship. But you see, you've got to look at what goes on at Westminster, and you think this whole setup of Parliament and the House of Lords and whatever, how relevant is that? It takes too long to get things done. Even the government are saying now, in regards planning, and they're talking about a new runway at Heathrow, planning takes too long. Everything takes too long. Why do things take too long? Right or wrong that they take too long?
Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. Do stay with us. Still to come, Paul Coit will be here. All of your latest sports news. That's next.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Lisa, you got in touch with me and you flagged this survey because you were concerned as a parent that your child had been given this to fill out.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter came home from school, she was very confused. She was asking why somebody would want to hurt themselves if they were feeling sad or worried about something. So that led to a conversation that we had, and I actually phoned the school and asked them to send me the survey, which with a lot of pushing, they eventually did send me the survey. And when I read through it, I was just completely shocked at the content. The survey says when I'm feeling worried that maybe I should try cutting or harming myself, because because it's in the survey, so that must be an option. I've tried everything else, so why not try this?
It is astonishing that some of these are young children who are perhaps being introduced to these, these abuses for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list of 17 different types of drugs, some of which I've actually never heard of myself. I mean, the wording on here is, have you ever got high from taking drugs? I mean...
And we know that some of these behaviours, self-harm, gender dysphoria, taking drugs, are psychologically contagious. Children do them because they see other children do them, or they find out about them from the internet or from surveys like this. So the idea that this is just information gathering and won't go any further than that is ridiculous. There was a similar survey in Scotland, I think, about 3 years ago, where children the same age, 11, 12, 13, were asked about their sex lives. How many times have you had sex in the last year? How did you have sex? Did you use contraception? Totally normalising underage sex. So the idea that children are just mini adults and we can confront them with all the same kind of ideas and dilemmas that adults have to face is just ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There was a court case on Friday, which related to Spurs, right? And it says that the guy called Matthew Rumsby, who's 42 years of age, he bombarded the Foreign Secretary with grossly offensive messages and says he will refuse to attend games while Lammy, who's a Tottenham MP, remains in his job. He's going to be sentenced in the weeks ahead. So I'm just pointing that out.
So he's refusing to go to Spurs. For what reason? The fact that David Lammy is a Spurs fan?
Yeah, and he doesn't like his trainers that he wears as well, that they're embarrassing.
Oh, really?
He's going to be sentenced in February. Just thought I'd let you know that.
I had to host a penalty competition once at Spurs when they closed the stadium, and David Lammy, with a load of MPs, took a penalty.
Was he good?
He was terrible. He had the... And the thing is, you know, I was obviously taking the mickey a little bit, and I don't think he appreciated it too much, because I'm saying, look, you got the boots and everything. What was that? It was like the worst penalty I've ever seen. But he was, he wasn't.
Penalties are a complete art form these days. I mean, I watch them, and the way, you know, I would have been taught as a kid how to take a penalty, just boot it and
put your laces through it.
Yeah, put your laces through it. But these shimmying, these stops, these dances are right incredible. It's such an art form.
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't do that.
You could.
I couldn't do that.
You don't think so?
I couldn't do that. Right, my friend.
Right, let's do it then, shall we?
We should talk about Spurs.
Big questions with Spurs yesterday.
Does the manager stay? Does the manager go? Ange Postecoglou. So it's Spurs are 15th in the Premier League, 13 league defeats. Only Southampton have lost more games than Tottenham, who are bottom. That's Southampton, of course, who are since December. We can see on the screen there Richarlison, who scored the opening goal. And I think, honestly, most people expected, and I spoke to Leicester fans as well, expected that Spurs were going to win this game. But this bad run continues. There's a huge amount of injuries, which is true. But any other manager, you would think, and also in Spurs history, after the way things are going, when you're expecting a top 4 finish and you're down in 15th, that the manager would be fired. But I got to tell you, I don't think it is going to happen. Really? No, I don't. There's a lot of people that he's got to go today. The injuries is one thing, but also, as he says, there's a lot still to play for. Yes, the league, and there's a fight there for relegation. But there's a League Cup semi-final, Carabao Cup semi-final against Liverpool, which happens next week. There was a problem when Spurs got to the League Cup final a few years ago when Jose Mourinho was fired right on the eve of that. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to want to make that decision and make that mistake again and go, so people will be able to point fingers. It's a really delicate balancing act whether you keep the manager whether he stays, whether he goes.
There are a lot of questions about Ange Postecoglou's training techniques and the way the players play.
Yeah.
And the accusation is that it leads to injuries.
Sure. There are a lot of injuries.
This has happened in previous jobs.
It has happened in previous jobs. It's because it's a very high-intensity game of football. You've got players that are running, turning and they're saying, and I've heard people say that it is to do, there's a lot of injuries to do with that. Now, there's no true evidence to say that because there's a lot of teams that have a lot of injuries. So we look at Bournemouth as well. You could say, is that the problem? Is that the reason they've got injuries? But they're expecting, hopefully, once players get back, that things will improve. So what do? Do you then, if you get rid of Postecoglou, who then replaces him? You deal with the same training staff that are already there, so things aren't going to change. It's a very tricky situation, but it's not looking good at Spurs at the moment. Here's Ange Postecoglou anyway. He did speak afterwards. I don't know whether he was speaking down here, probably was, but this is after the game.
I've been around long enough to know that some will just judge on where we're at the moment, and rightly so in some respects, and it's not good enough. If people want to sort of put context to that, they can. If not, so be it. But from my point of view, I think I'm still sort of very much stuck on the fact that the players are just giving everything they can. They did on Thursday night, they did tonight. There's probably at least two that shouldn't have been out there, but they were just, desperate to try and, like I said, turn our fortunes around.
Well, we'll see.
Meanwhile, Manchester United might have turned their fortunes around. It was a 1-0 win at Fulham last night.
It wasn't completely convincing, was it? But a win, as I always like to say,
a win is a win.
Is a win. Is a win. And if you win away at Fulham, well, that's a good result for Manchester United.
And they're now ahead of Spurs. They've swapped places with Spurs.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. And Marcus Rashford, I mean, we'll play this a little bit later, but Ruben Amorim, the manager, was asked about that, and he was saying that he would rather play his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach if he gives more in training. I mean, this is the problem. He's without actually saying Marcus Rashford, he's saying that he's just not giving enough in training. And if you don't train as you play, which is often an old adage that goes back a long time, you ain't going to get in the team. And that's the thing with Marcus Rashford at the moment.
OK. Paul, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you again shortly, my friend.
Now, time is running out on your chance to become our biggest ever giveaway winner with an incredible £50,000 in your bank account, totally tax-free to spend however you like. Here are all of the details that you need.
There's just 4 days left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Amazing, just the best feeling ever.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one
live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
King Charles is set to visit the Auschwitz concentration camp today to mark Holocaust Memorial Day. It's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the largest Nazi concentration camp.
Well, commemorations will remember the 6 million Jews killed during the Holocaust as world leaders and survivors gather at the site.
We're joined now by co-chair of the UK Holocaust Memorial Foundation, Lord Eric Pickles. Lord Pickles, good morning.
Good morning.
What way do you feel going into today, Lord Pickles? How do you think it should be remembered? I mean, is it with great sadness, or how would you describe it?
Well, I think great sadness is absolutely right. It's been my privilege to get to know a number of survivors very well, and I'm thinking particularly this morning with my friend Ivor Pearl, and I stood with him on the separation rank where one direction led to immediate death in the gas chamber, and another went to where you'll be worked to death. That was the last time he saw his mother and his sister. So I'll be thinking about Ivor today.
I'm just amazed that there's still survivors, that there are people who were actually there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, most of them, in fact, all of them now were children during the Holocaust. So we see it through their eyes. But we should hold on to those testimonies. We should hold on to what was said, and we should hold on to what happened. And it's essentially what happens when government goes bad, when it uses all its resources from laws even down to railway timetables to murder people, and murder people in an industrial scale way.
It's so important to remember, isn't it? And it's so important that we do, as you say, focus on the testimony, because that lived experience is very sadly not going to be with us for much longer. This is probably one of the final anniversaries where we will have people who are actually there to tell us about the horrors that took place.
I think that's right. I came to the 70th and the 75th, and we said at those that we thought that probably was going to be the last time. But if I think in terms of, I remember going to the hotel to pick up survivors on the way to the ceremony, going back to even just 10 years ago, we had a fair number, but it's a limited number of people who are able to travel.
But Eric, again, another very disturbing thing is we talk about the memories, we talk about the survivors, we talk about what happened, and yet today there's still evidence, very obvious evidence of anti-Semitism throughout our own country, throughout the world. Why, my friend, how could you explain this? Instead of sympathising and empathising with what happened to these people, why do more and more people want to harm them, hurt them, abuse them?
Well, I'm sorry if this sounds really quite brutal, but I think we are very good, and we will be very good to remembering the plight and understanding of dead Jews. We're pretty indifferent, I think, to Jews that are alive, and when Jews defend themselves, then we're positively hostile. And I think we need to come to terms with that. But sometimes it's a bit of a problem, I think, comparing the Holocaust to modern contemporary events, particularly in Gaza, because the Holocaust was unique. There were genocides before, there were genocides since, but there's been nothing even approaching the brutality and the systematic way in which people were killed to the Holocaust.
What do you make of the King's visit to Auschwitz today, the first British head of state to ever do so?
Well, it's having a very big impact. Kingdoms immensely popular in Poland. He is clearly the most important of the VIPs that will be attending the ceremony. He has a personal commitment to remembering the Holocaust, done quite a lot of work with survivors, and has shown his willingness to give quite a lot of time. So it's something I suspect he's doing not just out of a sense of public duty, but out of personal commitment. And I think it is a very big symbolic gesture in these difficult times for British Jews and indeed Jews around the world.
Eric, I studied and looked at throughout the years, especially when I was much younger, so much documentary footage of the liberation of these concentration camps and, you know, what went on there and how disturbing it was. I've seen various films over the years which have disturbed me as well, and I visited memorials in Israel about this. But you know what? I actually don't think I could visit Auschwitz. I actually think it's had such an effect on me now that there's certain things. I mean, there's a film, the boy in the striped pajamas or whatever. I can't watch it. I sort of can't. I say this against myself, but the horror I don't want inflicted, and I get quite angry. I'm not Jewish, but I get quite horrified when people are given time and space on social media and whatever to deny the Holocaust. I mean, that actually enrages me, but it would absolutely horrify me to walk around somewhere like Auschwitz. I actually just don't think I would be strong enough.
Oh, that makes you a better person. It is indeed just dreadful. It's sometimes it's a small, trivial things. It's the way in which the railway timetables have been worked out. It's the way that people were systematically stripped of everything, their dignity, their possessions, their hair, and just treated as a commodity. And the thing that should frighten you the most is that the people that committed these crimes were fairly ordinary people. They weren't they weren't brutes. They were people that were very well educated. And their ability to be able to isolate themselves sort of intellectually in terms of just killing people. They didn't regard the people they were killing as being human. And, you know, the truth is, we think about Nuremberg, but very few people were actually convicted or served time because of the Holocaust. Most of them went back to the jobs they were doing before the Second World War. And most, we know, were very proud of what they did.
Lord Pickles, you're a very interesting man to talk to. We wish you well on this day, and whatever it means to you, I hope it's a strong meaning and it's commemorated in the right way. We'll certainly reflect it throughout GB News today. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
And what Lord Pickles was saying there, I have been to Auschwitz and we had a tour from a lovely lady there. And she said exactly that at the end. She said, you have to remember, this is not done by monsters. What happened here was not done by monsters. What they did was monstrous, but it was human beings. And human beings did that to each other. And that's what you have to remember, because you have to accept that to ensure that it never happens again.
Back with the papers after this.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. The south of Europe looks pretty unsettled over the next few days. Rain at times in most areas and windy in places too. So looking at things in more detail for Tuesday, the Canaries and Madeira, mostly fine, 1 or 2 showers but some sunshine too. Some persistent outbreaks of rain across parts of Spain, southern France into Italy, even some snow across the Alps. So it's the southeast of Europe set to see the best of the conditions. As we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, we hold on to fairly unsettled weather, but something a bit quieter later in the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB News Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question. And J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for Girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Is she
pretty? No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no. Like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just. It's not just making a mockery of women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
If your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
Tess. That's a bit kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice of the name you're going to choose. And of course you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Newspapers, we've got Don Neeson and we've got Christopher Biggins to talk about the stories there. And a lot of the papers and indeed we are reflecting the conversation which Donald Trump guys had last night with Keir Starmer and what that was about. But let's ask Christopher, first of all, Trump was in a situation yesterday where he had Colombian refugees and he basically says to Colombia, right, you take this lot back, they shouldn't be in my country, you're going to take them back. And they go, no, we're not taking them back. And he goes, right, I'm going to put a lot of tax on your goods and I'm going to do it in the next couple of hours. And then they suddenly found aeroplanes and whatever to take these refugees back. So that got us talking about Britain and could Britain do the same and could we talk tough and whatever. Nobody believes Britain ever could or would. What's your take on what happened?
Well, I think tough talking works, obviously. So, I mean, whenever you think about Trump, he says that and they turn round.
Well, they obviously believe him. He's done the same to, what's his name in France? What do you call him?
Macron, yeah, exactly.
And he said, oh, no, right, OK, no problem, we'll sort things round.
I think there's a sort of fear that people have that not only will he do what he says he'll do extra. Because, he's that sort of man.
Yeah. Well, Philip's been in touch saying if only Starmer grew a backbone and told France that the UK is going to impose a 50% tariff on all of French wine, cheese, cars, everything else, and cancel the French fishing licences unless France takes every single person arriving illegally from a
Interesting.
It's a good idea,
It's a very good idea.
The problem we've got is we're not a presidential system.
No.
We are a democracy. We have elected parties. So there's a lot more red tape and legal argument to get through. In America, you've got the president, can do what he wants. Yeah. And he's got the two houses. He's got the Senate with him as well. So there is no argument. So he can do these things. We have to have meetings and get lawyers involved. And again, the idea of telling France to actually get their bottoms in gear, it's just, it's a pipe
Which brings me to another point, Dawn. The Times, front page of the Times, half of Generation Z want Britain to be ruled by a dictator. So they basically say if they're between 13 and 30, they're saying we would be better off with somebody who would be in a position just to snap their fingers and make things happen.
It's a curious study, this, isn't it? Because you would have thought that generation, which are traditionally
would be more liberal.
More liberal, yeah, is the polite way of putting it, would actually agree with democracy, where you have a vote and you get who you vote for. Whereas a dictatorship, I mean, are they saying, say, like, you know, Putin or North Korea is a better place to live than the UK? We've got our problems here, but I'm not entirely sure a dictatorship is the way to go about it.
You've got to be careful what you wish for.
Well, you see, then you can look at places like Dubai and outside the odd cutting your hands off or whatever for drinking alcohol or having relationships with somebody who shouldn't.
Yeah, a bit of like stoning to death occasionally.
Yes, but besides that, they seem to work quite well and people seem to get on very well with it. A benign dictatorship.
I think I would rather, as a woman, have a democracy where I'm free to make decisions about how I run my life than live somewhere.
But here's my point. Nothing gets done in a democracy.
No, I agree. Not in this democracy.
We could be stronger. We could get stronger. We should, I think, say, yes, we must do this, but I don't want what you're saying. Yes. I mean, I think there's you can't use that. We've just got to get ourselves together more.
But the problem begins with this. It's like, you know, regardless of what you think about Trump's politics, he is strong. He is positive.
I agree.
He loves his country. He talks up his country. He puts America first. If we only had a tiny bit of that in the UK from our leaders, whatever political colour they happen to be, then it'd be a much better place.
Yeah, OK, your views very welcome on that. Christopher, Heathrow, this situation, won't be a third runway. I look at, you know, a city, an international city like London, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the main airport has 2 runways.
It's absolutely. I mean, we must move ahead and we must get it organised. I mean, I think, you know, she's right yesterday when she was talking about this. I mean, you know, the situation it is ridiculous.
Well, I'll tell you what's also ridiculous. What does this Labour Party stand for? Are they all into the environment and going green and whatever, or are they not? I can understand people being very, very confused by the message that's going out.
The problem you've got is we got rid of the Conservative Party because of all the infighting and the fact that they were just at each other's throats, and now you've got Labour who are doing the self-same thing.
Yeah. Will there be a massive split over this?
Yeah, of course there is, because you've got Sadiq Khan, who's Mayor of London, obviously, and Ed Miliband, who's in charge of all the environment and the green issues, saying, no, we can't have a third runway. While Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer are going, we have to have a third runway.
Oh, well, Keir Starmer a few years ago was saying it was a really bad idea.
Keir Starmer's had a lot of things a few years ago that are now suddenly a really good idea.
Well, now he wants growth.
So yes. Does he understand what that actually means, is the problem?
Dawn, let's have a look at the sun.
Wait a minute, just hold on. Airports. It's just, really, I don't know, you spend a lot of time in airports too.
Hideous.
I do not like big, massive airports, though, I have to say. I'd rather there be more airports the size of Leeds or Manchester.
Or City Airport.
Or City Airport around the country.
Which is fabulous.
More of them rather than more runways, rather than bigger ones. Gatwick, I detest. It's absolutely sprawling all over the place. And Heathrow's going the same way.
I know, but I mean, the problem is we do need to get more planes in.
Yes.
Well, that is the problem. And if we don't get extra runways, we're, I'm going to say a word I can't say at breakfast, but we are not in a good place.
Yeah. Well, Heathrow's been operating at capacity for years.
We've got 5 terminals and 2 runways.
Yes.
What planet does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
I mean,
to expand.
And you've got airports like Schiphol, just over the channel, who are handling a lot of the air traffic that we should be handling here.
And even the airlines are saying, look, if you're going to put in a third runway, the service needs to be better. Apparently it's the most expensive airport in the world
to
land in. Yeah, and they were like, you do not get top quality service.
I'd also say, well, people talk about pollution, but by the time it takes to build this, say it's 10 years, 12 years or whatever, airplanes will be running on water or hydrogen or vegetable oil or something.
Yes.
They will be.
Or banned all completely. Why does it take so long, though? This is the thing.
Well,
this is going back to Trump, like you're saying, Eamonn.
Yeah.
Trump will just get it done, right? Just go in there and get it done.
Yeah.
With us, it's going to take 12, 15 yeyears.
Planning,
It'll take years
appeals.
to sign off.
There's a story which I'm going to tell in the next slot. Thank you very much. The next slot, and which is all to do with snails and time. Ooh. And you'll be interested by this story.
OK, well, don't leave us like, tell us about it.
Next time round.
Doing a tease.
Yeah, it's a tease.
I was doing a little tease, but I could no, I'm not going. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it for the tease. Leave
it hanging.
We look forward to that, Biggins.
Yes.
Let's talk about this knife situation after the Southport attacks and what's happening online.
Yeah, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announced tough new measures after that piece of filth in Southport was able to buy his deadly weapons on Amazon in seconds, and that resulted in 2 front pages last week. The Amazon killer. Killer brought knives on Amazon. How dreadful. It's not about the knife. I'm sorry, this is
absolutely
papering,
right.
This is papering over the cracks.
Yes, it is.
It's not. It's like blaming the cars that drive into crowds of people in Christmas markets.
Yeah.
It's not the car, it's not the knife. Yes, we need to cramp down on knife crime, of course we do. Most of the laws are going to be announced in this crackdown are already in existence. It's illegal to buy a knife under the age of 18. Yes. You have to prove your age, you have to prove your identity. That's already there, that's the law. What is this about? It's not about the blooming knife, it's about what this kid did, who knew about this kid, and why nothing was done. He was referred to prevent, 3 times.
Well,
that's what this story is
about. They could introduce a law which says you cannot buy such an item online. You have to be in person at a department store or a hardware shop.
Yeah, but good luck with that one. The amount of ordinary families who buy their knives online, and how are you going to make sure that that is the thing with the companies that sell them? And let's face it, kids like this piece of scum in Southport, are a rarity. Most kids who are running around with knives, stabbing one another, are not going to John Lewis to buy their knives.
No. And ultimately, if he wants to hurt someone or harm someone, you'd get a knife out of a kitchen drawer.
Of course, you can. I mean, the other thing is, I think we should look more at families. I mean, why didn't the family of this monster do something? Why were they...
They rang the police, I think, on 3 occasions, but we're not clear. You know, the attack the week prior to Southport, where his father dragged him out of a taxi to stop him going to school.
Well, hopefully the inquiry will find that out. Biggins and Dawn, thank you for the moment. Thank you very much indeed. They've had their say. You can have your say. You know how to get in touch with us and leave your opinion and have your say.
Now, it's very blustery out there today. Let's get all of the details with Marco.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK, lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some drier weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather, so across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK. But as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK. And again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells, not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M876 in Falkirk is blocked southbound by an accident at junction 1 for the Checkbar roundabout, causing queues. In County Down, the A22 is closed each way between Lisbon and Comer because of a fallen tree that's brought down power cables. There are also fallen trees that have left the A24 closed along Church Street in Ballynahinch and the A51 closed along Tanderbury Road in Guildford. Now on the M60 in Greater Manchester, the clockwise entry slip roads closed at junction 19 at Heaton Park because of flooding. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise at junction 20 at Kings Langley after an accident with queues from junction 21A for the M1 South. In Devon, the A303 is closed each way off the A30 between Pottery and Ilminster because of flooding, and in Cornwall the A39 is closed in both directions along Melville Road in Falmouth because of a fallen tree.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Don't miss out as lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win.
Our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Is President Trump headed to the UK?
Well, the Prime Minister becomes the first European leader to speak with the newly elected president.
As they tease a possible state visit during their 45-minute phone call.
Meanwhile, Colombia capitulates to Trump's trade tariff threats after initially refusing to accept illegal immigrants sent by America. Is it time for us to follow suit and talk tough?
Never again, never forget. The King's set for a moving visit to Auschwitz.
Hello, good morning. I'm afraid we've got a very unsettled day to come across the UK today. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain pretty much nationwide, coupled with blustery winds too. I'll have all the details later.
Very good to see you. A very good morning to you on this Monday morning. You're starting your day with us. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Lots of you getting in touch this morning. We've been talking about Trump talking tough to Colombia, and it seems to have worked for him, actually, overnight. So we're saying, should we expect Sir Keir Starmer to do the same thing? Keith says no. Sir Keir Starmer is far too soft to ever send illegal migrants back to where they came from. Stephen says Labour believe that all people are welcome and it's far right to want to stop them. And PW simply says, Starmer get tough too, don't make us laugh.
You see, Starmer is a lawyer, and therefore he does things, everything's by the law and can't cross this or do that.
It's very measured, isn't it? It's very measured. Even the way he speaks, it's never fast or particularly passionate. It's just all very...
Well, we've got this poll today, a study into what are called Generation Z, people between 13 and 40. And basically they're saying they would prefer our country run by someone who just says it as it is, who's done what Trump's done, which is saying, you're going to take these migrants back. Colombia says, no, we're not. He says, right, well, I'm going to slap what are you going to say?
Tariffs.
Tariffs. Big tariffs on your produce, on your wine, on your food, on your cheese, whatever it happens to be. And then suddenly they said, oh, hold on a minute, Mr. President, don't be so hasty. We'll send some planes up to get them.
Yeah.
And people of that age, 13 to 40, admire their leader being like that. So we were asking this morning, could our leaders not be like that? And there's lots of reasons why they can't be like that. But would they be?
Yeah.
Would they choose to be like that as well? Let us have your views, have your say on it. There's how you do it on your screen now, and we'll reflect those throughout the programme.
Well, talking about President Trump, himself and Sir Keir Starmer have agreed to meet soon following a phone call between the two leaders last night.
Well, they discussed the importance of close and warm ties between Britain and the US.
But all eyes are on Trump's trade war with Colombia overnight as he threatened a 25% tariff on the country after they refused to accept returning illegal migrants.
Now, Colombia quickly gave in on this with their foreign ministry stating the country had overcome the impasse. Not only agreeing to accept these migrants back again, but sending the president's own plane to collect them. That's the president of Colombia we're talking about.
Pretty humiliating for him, isn't it? Well, let's get more on this with political commentator Theo Usherwood. Good to see you this morning, Theo.
Very good morning to you both.
And this phone call between Keir Starmer and Trump appears to have been very warm, very cordial.
Warm and personal, and that's good. Look, it's a very difficult relationship for Keir Starmer. He's not been exactly praising in opposition. He wasn't exactly a pro-Trump supporter. He spoke fairly disparagingly about the new US president, David Lammy, the foreign secretary. And this is just about trying to improve relations, getting off to a good start. He's the first Western leader now to have a phone call with Donald Trump. He's hoping that Donald Trump will make his first state visit to the UK.
Would they have brought up so early the Peter Mandelson situation?
Well, we understand from the readout, which is provided by Number 10 last night, that issue didn't come up. Lord Mandelson, of course, was very close to Tony Blair, has a very different worldview to Donald Trump. But of course, Number 10 see him as a canny political operator, somebody who knows how to get things done, and that's why they'd like him to be our new ambassador to Washington. But of course, it hasn't our decision to say, well, this is our recommendation, hasn't gone down well in Trump's circle. Donald Trump is personally yet to sign it off, and he could veto it. So that's one issue. We've then got the Chagos Islands as well. That's another issue. And we've seen, you've been talking about what happened with Colombia. We've seen how badly it's gone for those who've decided to cross Donald Trump already. There's details here about a horrendous phone call between Mr. Trump and the Danish Prime Minister when the Danish Prime Minister pushed back on Mr. Trump's idea that the US could just take Greenland, which is under Danish control. So Keir Starmer is trying to balance things off, but absolutely it's important to get off to a good start. And Trump is all too well aware. I think there's always a temptation to sort of underestimate him, especially on the left. And I think he's all too well aware of that he holds the whip hand in any negotiations. There's a quote here, and this was in a briefing on Air Force One about where he could take his first visit. It could be Saudi Arabia, it could be the UK. Traditionally, it could be the UK. He knows full well the importance and the symbolism that if he decides to come to the UK first.
I thought the readout from the White House was very, very interesting, much shorter than the British one. And it simply said that two men discussed how to promote a fair bilateral economic relationship. And again, you can hear, even through the niceties, the threat of tariffs coming.
Yeah, and the tariffs on UK produce into products, services into the US would be devastating. It's exactly what we're trying to avoid. It's important that, and Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, has made this case that we're not in the UK. We're not the same as Europe. We have a good balance of trade with the United States, and actually, why impose tariffs on the UK? But I think there's a thornier issue here for Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, and that is, Keir Starmer wants to face towards the European Union. He wants a reset with the European Union. He wants closer trading ties with the European Union, getting away with the bureaucracy of it. And at the same time, he also wants to try and woo Donald Trump. And you can't do both. It will be very, very difficult to do both, because Donald Trump is not a fan of the European Union. And if Keir Starmer sets our face towards Brussels and the European Union, that's going to go down very badly in Washington.
You were talking about the two statements from the two countries. I bet you, I haven't seen the statement from the US, but I bet you they didn't mention anything about the special relationship, which we will in Britain. We love sucking up to them and say, oh, we have a special relationship, which is an absolute nonsense. We don't have a special relationship. Well, we like to say it.
Not any. You know, this is a sort of post Cold War Thatcher Reagan. That's where it goes back to, and of course, then you had the idea that it didn't necessarily have to be. You know, you could have Obama and Cameron, Bush and Blair. You could have people politically very different, but there was always a very close relationship. The UK was a bridge between North America and Europe. But you're right to say that Trump's not for those niceties. That's not what he's about. He's absolutely adamant that with his policies, whether it be economic policies or his immigration policy, he's going to put America first, and we're going to have to find a way to negotiate to get the best deal for ourselves, and it's going to be tough.
But Keir Starmer has that diplomatic lever, doesn't he, of the royal family, which we know Donald Trump loves.
Yes, we do, and I think, you know, watch out for, you know, the role of King Charles and especially Prince William. We know the importance, the store that Donald Trump puts by family. He spoke in glowing terms when he came over during his first term as president and met Queen Elizabeth II. We had that state visit, those incredible photographs from Buckingham Palace, and the idea of dynasty. We know that, you know, Trump puts a huge amount about, you know, on his family, bringing in, you know, his sons advise him. Barron was advising him on his podcast. Eric and Don Jr. advise him. Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, is working with, you know, Saudi Arabia. You know, he brings, you know, his inner circle is very much family-based, and I think it's interesting that, you know, he clearly sees the royal family as a big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I had to impersonate Trump on a comedy show one time, and I was told you put your mouth in a certain way, you imitate a certain part of the body with it. And here he is on the front of the Times. So I don't know if you can see that any closer. No.
I knew you were going to say this.
But the thing about it is that look at that.
Oh no, I don't want to think about that this time in the morning.
No, but no, it's you know, like this.
You dressed up as Trump. Is this the time that you dressed up as him?
No, of course it was. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. You might make a habit of it. I don't know. You look very good.
Yeah, and I had to have my lips in a certain way.
Oh well, yes. Exactly like that photo.
There we go. The poll of the day. Right, today we're running and we're seeing how you're voting in this one. As Trump gets tough,
yes.
Do you trust our Prime Minister to do what it takes to deport illegal immigrants? So Trump basically says, take them back or I'm going to slap you with big taxes and tariffs, OK? And it worked. It worked really well with Colombia. So have we got any results on this to report so far today?
We will do in the 9 o'clock.
But why are we waiting till 9 o'clock? Are we not yet? Oh, waste of time. Anyway, the full result will be there with Martin Daubney at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, gbnews.com/poll if you'd like to get involved.
Yeah, but anyway, I think I could predict the result of this one.
I think I could too.
OK. King Charles is set to visit Auschwitz today, the concentration camp, to mark Holocaust Memorial Day.
Yes, it's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the largest Nazi concentration camp.
Commemorations will remember the 6 million Jews killed during the Holocaust as world leaders and survivors gather at the site.
Well, we're joined now by Director of Investigations and Enforcement and the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. See you this morning, Stephen, on what is such a poignant anniversary, 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz, and a reminder as well that we're seeing fewer Holocaust survivors this year than ever before, just 50 making the trip this year.
Indeed. It is salutary, though, to remind ourselves on today of all days that for all the effort that goes into Holocaust education and the fact that this event and others like it are regularly held, today in our country, anti-Semitism has become its greatest shame. It is running at unprecedented levels here. It's becoming normalised with each passing day, and time is running out to do something about it. And it's happening because British authorities are failing the Jewish community across the board. And our polling that is released today shows this, in particular, the utter disillusionment with the Metropolitan Police, the Mayor of London, and politicians across several political parties is particularly stark.
And Stephen, the thing is, we're not just talking about recent events in Gaza here, you know, because a lot of people will make that analogy and they will say, oh, but this is why this is happening. And it may well be a contributing factor. But the fact is, are they aware enough to make the connection between what happened between 1940 and 1945 and marking that event and the anti-Semitism that we're experiencing today? Because there must still be, despite what most of us think and look at the concentration camps and the horrors that took place, there must still be people which this doesn't affect.
Well, yes. Jews in this country have been beleaguered for the last 15 months. And, you know, the comparison or the reference to what has been happening in Gaza, that is not the reason for the absolutely mind-blowing upsurge in anti-Semitism that Jews are having to deal with here at the moment. It's not the reason. The reason for anti-Semitism is anti-Semites and nothing else. And that was really writ large, not Saturday just gone, but the Saturday before, when the organisers of the marches that we have seen with monotonous frequency for the last 15 months were told that they could not march in the vicinity of a synagogue on a Saturday morning while Shabbat services were in place. And they completely lost the plot. They became enraged, they defied the police, and it resulted in 77 arrests. This is the reality of what British Jews are dealing with, and it's seeped into every walk of life. It's in the criminal justice system. It's on university campuses. It's rife in the National Health Service. Everywhere a British Jew turns, he or she now has to wonder what the person they are interacting with, the person who is treating them, the person who is delivering them a service thinks of them. And the excuse, and it is an excuse, is the fact that Israel has been fighting a war against a prescribed terrorist organization thousands of miles away.
Stephen Silverman, thank you for your thoughts, and our thoughts are with you on this very special day. We hope it goes well. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
There's an alarming study out today talking about what Stephen was mentioning there. People are very, very quick to forget. A third of young adults in the UK unable to name Auschwitz, any concentration camp or any ghettos, any places where the crimes of the Holocaust were committed. A third of young adults wouldn't know what those places are. So that's why days like today are just so important to remember, never ever forget.
I look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning. The Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before the deadly attack. Alex Ruda-Kubana, who murdered 3 young girls and tried to kill 10 others, downloaded an Al-Qaeda training manual and watched graphic footage online just before the stabbing spree. Yvette Cooper says it's unacceptable that such hateful content remains easily available, urging tech companies to take immediate action ahead of new online safety laws in March.
Well, that comes as the government cracks down on online knife sales after it was revealed that Axel Ruda-Kubana purchased his murder weapon on Amazon when he was just 17. Buyers will now need to show photo ID at the point of purchase and again when the knife is delivered, with packages banned from being left on doorsteps.
Pharmacists have issued a warning over the online sale of weight loss jabs, insisting there's still a potential risk to safety. The National Pharmacy Association has written to regulators calling for tougher rules after it was made aware of people who previously had eating disorders or those with low body weight being wrongly prescribed the drug.
let's have a look at the weather with Marco.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some drier weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather. So across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK, but as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK, and again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, time is running out on your chance to become our biggest ever giveaway winner. An incredible £50,000 in your bank account, totally tax-free to spend however you like. Here are all of the details that you need.
There's just 4 days left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Amazing, just the best feeling ever.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message.
If only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9.
This is a bigger one.
From the Australian Open as well.
From the Australian Open, and this is in the women's tournament.
Oh, yeah, Aryna Sabalenka. So she lost the final, and she wasn't very happy. She threw a racket on the floor, stormed off, came back out. Now, do you think this is disrespectful? Have a look at this. So this is afterwards. This is her runners-up prize. And there's her and her coaches pretending to urinate all over the trophy. So people are saying, this is so disrespectful. Well, it's an absolute disgrace. Pretending to do that. So is it terribly disrespectful? I mean, it's just like, well, there it is on the floor. We lost it. So, by the way, this is run over and over again. This is not them continuing to do this. They did do this once, so it's not like they're continuing.
See, I don't like it when people disrespect their trophy or their medals. You know, in football sometimes when the runner-up medals, and then they take them straight off and put them in their pocket. I think it's so rude.
Mourinho gives them to the crowd.
Yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that.
But, I mean, I know for a fact
you do that.
The FA Cup is often used as a receptacle for urine.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What, people have weed in the FA Cup?
Yes.
Really?
How do you know that?
Because players have told me.
Really?
So when they go like that and they have they go like they drink out, they go, no, don't drink out of that, whatever you do.
I hope it's been discussed.
Really? Who told you?
Oh, it's a lot, actually, more than one.
Is that right?
Yeah, over the years. So.
There was a very famous story, and this involved a very famous performer who was in Singing in the Rain. How true this is, but this is the big showbiz rumour, that the stagehands at the London Palladium did not like the performer who was in the show. So when they do Singing in the Rain, all the water would come down. The stagehands would singing in the rain, and they'd be going, ha, ha, ha. That's the story.
And it would be warm rain.
And that was the revenge.
It's warm rain.
Oh, no.
Right, well, there's a bad rain at Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, the rain could be over, couldn't it, really? We'll have to see.
Are things going to change? The headline back of the Sun today, interesting, they have Postanoglu as for Postecoglou.
It's not going well. The argument is the amount of injuries that Spurs have, but you would still think that the Spurs team that played Leicester yesterday would have had enough to win, but it continues. It goes worse and worse, and they're in 15th place. And where people say it's that old thing about, oh, this team is too good to go down, I wouldn't be so sure.
Yeah.
They need to get some wins.
That was a home defeat for them, and it is looking bad.
Against
Manchester
United. I don't think he'll go, by the way. I don't think he will be fired today.
Okay.
I believe that.
Manchester United, vital win for them. They move above Spurs in the league.
They do, yep. So they're going up. And so Fulham, so 1-0 against Fulham. Aston Villa drew with West Ham. And Crystal Palace lost at home to Brentford yesterday. So there's the results. Do you want to play birthdays?
Birthdays.
Should we do some birthdays?
Yep.
OK, let's do some birthdays. Right, let's have the first one, please. I don't even know who we've got coming up, but I do know how old they are. Our first birthday is... Oh, it's Ruben Amorim. There he is, the Manchester United manager.
I know exactly.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because of the story?
Yeah. He says he feels like 50, but he's not.
Ellie, how old is he?
I'm going to say 47.
40.
Hold on. So if you say, I feel like 50, it's my 47th birthday, but I feel like 50, you're more likely to say, I am...
40.
But I feel like 50. There you go. He's 40 today.
He's 40 today.
40 today. Right,
Yeah,
so that was a free hit, that one. Let's go with the next one. So there's Ruben. Happy birthday, Ruben. It's Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Doing from the Three Lines video. So there's always a sporty link there.
Frank Skinner is 65.
65 for Skinner.
62.
68.
Oh.
68 today. OK, right, we'll have another one. Let's go with another one. Who is this and how old is... That's Mark Pugac.
Oh, right.
ITV lead. He's the anchor for the sport these days. Very good broadcaster.
58.
Very interesting picture of him there. 58 for Pugac.
I'd say 55.
You were close to 57.
Oh, well,
close.
I think I should have that one.
No, I can't give you that. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
close,
Rules is rules.
Yeah.
Rules is rules. We've got time for one more. Oh, it's showbiz. Showbiz one. Mark Owen from Take That. How old is Mark Owen today?
Got me there. 50?
52.
The answer is he was 52 yesterday.
There you are.
Because today is 53.
Oh.
So today's his birthday, so he's 53.
Well done,
I was
Miss
very
Ellie.
close there.
You were.
Very good,
If we'd have played it yesterday, how old is he? You were right, but now he's 53 today, so I'm afraid that's
You
not
should
correct.
go out and get drunk more often. It's working for you.
By the way, there is a banning order at Spurs with a picture with your picture on the front.
Yeah.
Not allowed near the champagne.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.
Lovely stuff.
Coming up, papers with Dawn Neeson, Christopher Biggins. Next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M876 in Falkirk is blocked southbound by an accident between junction 1 for the Checkbar roundabout and the M80, causing delays. In County Down, there are a couple of fallen trees. The A24 is closed each way along Church Street at Ballynahinch, and the A51 is closed along Tanderbury Road. In Guildford, on the M60 in Greater Manchester, the clockwise entry slip road's closed at junction 19 at Eaton Park because of flooding. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, the outside lane's closed anti-clockwise at junction 20 at Kings Langley after an accident. The queue's back beyond junction 21A. The M4 in Berkshire is blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 5 and 4B towards the M25, causing queues. In London, the Valley Road's closed between Ponders End and Chingford after an accident, and in Devon, the A303 is closed off the A30 between the Pottery and Ilminster because of flooding. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And Dawn, they've got the newspapers today, and so this story you were telling us an hour ago, you were building up to snails.
Yes.
Yes.
Snails. What's the significance of snails?
I'm glad that you've been thinking about it for the last hour. Well, this just is ridiculous story. I mean, an accident black spot. Which was being revamped, has been delayed 10 years because there are some very rare snails which people say must be protected. So people are dying and getting knocked over and nothing is happening, and this dual carriageway is not being built, and it's going to take another 10 years for something to happen to it.
Well, this is what we're, I suppose, talking about, this survey, which says we just want straight-talking leaders like Donald Trump, people who just get things done.
Yes.
And sometimes when you look at delays, I was looking at, there was a, what was it? Was it HS2? There was a £100,000 bridge.
£100 million on a bat tunnel.
Yeah,
the bats, yes.
Bat tunnels.
Sometimes you realise, when are we just going to get a sense of priority here?
I know. I mean, you know, there are human beings with families, children, being killed and knocked over for the sake of a snail.
Well, I was watching, I think it was Country File last night or something, and it was about beavers, right?
Oh, I love
and it
beavers.
was about... What do you mean you love beavers? You don't know you love beavers. We don't have any beavers in this country.
They're clever.
Right, and they're reintroducing beavers to this country because they haven't been around for 100 years. Well, here's my point. Who's missed having beavers? You know, why...
Female beavers.
Why, you know, why... What difference does it make?
I'm a tabloid journalist. I'm not allowed to talk about beavers, sorry. It just gets messy.
Well, I just...
well, I mean, you know...
Well, what? It's very nice, but why are they blocking up rivers, and why are we dealing with beavers again and them biting things and eating things? I don't... If we've done without them for 100 years, why do we need them?
Aren't they meant to be good for the environment?
They're good for the ecosystem.
They're good for the environment.
Well, I'm with Biggins and the snails. I think certain things are just out of proportion.
It's a joke. It really is. It's ridiculous.
Jess, what am I see? Wilhelmina, no, Jan. So many Biggins calls. Biggins is a straight talker. He's right. Wilhelmina says, Biggins, you're looking very smart today.
Oh.
I love the pinstripe suit.
Thank you, Wilhelmina.
Yeah, so that's nice. Okay.
And lots of love for you as well, Dawn. Can't leave Dawn out.
Yeah, right, whatever.
Where are the ones that love Dawn?
Well, we're
the ones that
Stop it. You don't have them printed, but they are coming through thick and fast, Dawn. Should we have
Just
a look,
thick.
Should we look at John Paul Ennis?
Yes, let's.
Being a bit naughty.
If you've never heard of him, he's the mayor of Lambeth. He's a 27-year-old online influencer and DJ. Well, who isn't these days? He's been accused of waging a war on motorists, and some council, some people in the borough of Lambeth pay £800 a year for a parking permit. In any case, this 27-year-old mayor is driving around in a very nice car. It's not specific about what car it actually is, but it's an expensive car. Meanwhile, the people living in the area are paying a fortune for parking permits. And it is basically saying that it's not fair. Why does he even do that? He's 27 years old.
No,
it's the mayoral car, though, isn't it?
Is he being chauffeured around in a limo? Yeah.
Yeah, he's been chauffeured around in a limo, yeah.
And he does a lot of things. He goes from one meeting to another.
Lambeth, yeah.
He wears a nice chain. That's what he said. I get to wear a shiny chain and ride around in a nice car. Come on.
Well, I
and
agree
why
with
does
you.
Lambeth need a mayor?
Well, the mayor, whoever it is, needs a nice car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like David Cameron used to go about this nonsense that when he became Prime Minister, he would ride in a bike to work during the day. That didn't last long, whatever. You need a special car, British car, and police outriders. You need to look the part. If you look the part, then people will think you are the part. So therefore, I don't agree with mayors going around on bicycles or being in carts or something like that.
No, I don't either.
He gets the car with the job. That's my view.
Why does a struggling London borough and Lambeth
everybody's
doing
struggling.
that well?
Look, the whole thing
why
is...
do they need a mayor?
Every borough is struggling. Everybody will always claim poverty all the time. You want a flash car, outriders, you want to look the part. It's got... Look, you look at the Germans, you look at the French, they have the outrider thing completely sus. They arrive in limos, they look the part all the time. We don't do that well.
And aeroplanes.
Aeroplanes.
They have.
First, the Americans and the,
Absolutely, we have nothing.
Yeah.
We have beavers.
You had Tony Blair used to go around blooming EasyJet.
Yeah.
You know, what a lot of nonsense.
What do you think about him boasting about it online, though?
Who's boasting about it?
This guy.
Well, he's
not. Real perk of
he's
the
not
job,
boasting about it. He's deliberately. He's supposed to be controversial. That's what he's.
I must say, if I won the lottery on Friday, whatever day it is, Tuesday, first thing I would do is get a chauffeur.
Would you?
Oh yes.
I'd like a chauffeur as well.
I can't think of anything nicer than someone dropping me off and saying, "James, pick me up in 3 hours."
Yeah.
After a very nice lunch.
Yeah.
Sadiq Khan's got a chauffeur-driven car, hasn't he? It's armoured plated. I think it's about 300.
Range Rover, yeah.
Yeah, £300,000, which he used to take his dog for a walk in the local park. Remember that story?
Oh yeah.
Just drive around the block whilst nagging us all about low emission zones and how we're all destroying the planet while taking his dog for a walk via...
But he needs to be protected, because I'm sure a lot of people would shoot him.
Yeah. No one's advocating shooting the Mayor of London.
Here's an interesting thing. What, are you going to the break?
We've got to go to the break. We've got to come back and do our round. Louis.
All right.
Christopher Dawn, you're going to be back shortly. But first, if you want to escape this dreary weather for some winter sun, we don't blame you. And here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. The south of Europe looks pretty unsettled over the next few days. Rain at times in most areas and windy in places too. So looking at things in more detail for Tuesday, the Canaries and Madeira, mostly fine, 1 or 2 showers but some sunshine too. Some persistent outbreaks of rain across parts of Spain, southern France into Italy, even some snow across the Alps. So it's the southeast of Europe set to see the best of the conditions. As we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, we hold on to fairly unsettled weather, but something a bit quieter later in the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Ironic article in The Guardian, Nick, caring about facts.
Yeah, this is Meta is ushering in a world without facts, says Nobel Peace Prize winner. And they just seem to give these Nobel Peace Prizes to anyone these days. So it's Maria Ressa.
Not working.
Zuckerberg came out, and it was very bold. He said a few things. We're going to use community notes instead of fact-checkers. Fact-checkers inverted commas, it just means people pushing usually a specific viewpoint. Community notes seems to be a great system that X uses, so why not do that? I think that's great. He's going to reduce restrictions on topics like immigration and gender. Good, because I'm against censorship. He's going to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more, which is great. He's also moving content moderation to Texas instead of California, which is banter. So now the cynical version is he just realises we've got a new regime, it's the MAGA era, and I want to be mates with Trump, who said that I should that if I interfere with the 2024 election, he should spend the rest of his life in prison. So he did mention he might be a bit scared of that. He was involved in that in Facebook suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, and I feel that he didn't like being a part of all that from watching.
And also the suppression of arguments about gender and, sex, what is biological sex and whatnot. You get banned for saying there are two sexes.
They're on the wrong side of this, and now he's correcting. But the weird thing is the people, of course, the people who don't like this, the lefties, this person, Ressa, is saying that this is a big problem. It's an extremely dangerous time. I've seen all this from the lefties. They just call it disinformation. They're worried about this because to them it's disinformation. To other people it's information.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think we can all agree if people think they're getting their facts just directly from Facebook, then something's horribly wrong. But we know that. The community notes thing, I think, is quite good because that sort of first-hand experience people are putting down, aren't they?
Yeah. People have loads of different views come together, and it's an aggregate, so that's why it works.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Right, we've got Chris Piggins and we've got Daubney, and they're standing by, waiting to do the newspapers again. But before, we are staying with the panel.
We're staying with the papers for now.
Right. Well, I'm going to stay in the papers for at least 2 minutes. Okay. So don't be interrupting me again. Right. What are we going to talk about here? I had something there.
Surge in mental illness.
The stresses and strains.
Surge in mental illness. So many people, and I heard Tony Blair speaking about this before, saying that we have got this out of proportion about what constitutes mental health deficiencies?
We're overdiagnosing the ordinary stresses and strains of normal life. And it's not me saying this, this is GP saying this. A survey of 1,000 family doctors said that 84% believe everyday pressures are being over-medicalised. So, say, for example, the stress of used to getting up this morning to prepare for a live breakfast show.
Everyday stresses and strains.
It's stress and anxiety, you want to do a good job, That's just normal part of working life. The Biggins going on stage for Panto, etc. That's just part of normal working day life. But these conditions now are being overdiagnosed as mental health issues, as sort of like depression and anxiety and thinking...
You do have anxiety. I mean, I can think of periods in my life when I was at school, when I was at primary school, when I was at secondary school, when I started work, various things in my life I can say really, really stressful. But you survive these things, you suck it up, you learn from it, you develop as a result from it.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need treatment for it, but nowadays I would get treatment.
I mean, 70 years ago, I can remember vividly having my mother would bring in the bath from outside and fill it with hot water, and I'd have a bath on a Monday night. And also other things, I'm just saying that as an example, because other things happened, but we got through it. The doctor used to come to our house and see us if we were ill.
Yeah, well, quite.
And work things out. Things have changed so ridiculously over the years. It's not true. Everybody now makes an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, you need a certain level of stress and anxiety. It's what the adrenaline is what drives you to do a good job. It is natural as part of everyday life. But these days now, especially the younger generation, according to this report, it's not me saying this, are going to doctors and saying, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling anxious, I can't cope with going to school, going to university, going to work, and they are being prescribed antidepressants.
Well, they're being enabled then, aren't they? Because you can't be wrapped up in cost of life.
But this is having an effect on the whole economy, obviously. Yeah. People, we know there's a mental health crisis. Lots of people are being signed off sick for mental health, so it's affecting the whole economy. So we need to reassess what we define now as mental illness and what is just part of everyday life.
Well, one thing's for sure, the National Health Service can't afford it, and they need to be putting their resources into people who are thinking of committing suicide and whatever at that end of the scale, rather than, you know, whether people are stressed out about their exams or not.
This is the exact point of it. People that really have serious mental illness are falling through the cracks.
Right. We say hello, good morning and welcome to Dame Harriet Baldwin now. Dame Harriet is the Shadow Minister for Business and Trade. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Eamonn.
Dame Harriet, today a lot of talk in the papers and whatever about Heathrow and a third runway, and I presume as a Conservative you'd probably be in favour of that.
Yeah, I voted for the third runway back in 2018 when we last voted on it, and I think that it seems to me that there's not much more concrete plans since then to actually go ahead and build it. So I'm, a bit mystified as to how the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, thinks this will lead to growth. We're in a very serious situation in our economy because of the decisions that she took in the budget last October. You're seeing in the numbers how business confidence has fallen, how businesses are cutting jobs, and she needs to do something, much more substantive to row back on some of the bad decisions she made in that budget, which are damaging growth so much.
Well, let me ask you this. Why would you want to build Heathrow but scrap HS2?
Well, ideally, you'd want to do both, and I think what happened with HS2 has been well reported is that the costs seem to have got completely out of control. And so I think it's really important that we invest in infrastructure as a country. Obviously, we are a global trading nation, and so we need to have the ability to trade with our trading partners and get around our own country in a fast and reliable way. But as I say, I think in terms of what we all want to see, which is economic growth for the UK, I'm actually very worried about some of the indications that we're seeing from businesses in terms of their reaction to the Chancellor's budget last October. And it seems to be having huge ramifications across the board, not just for farmers, not just for pensioners, but also for the businesses that we rely on to create growth, to create prosperity, to create jobs in this country.
Well, you've alluded to that report out this morning saying business chiefs saying they'd be forced to ramp up job cuts as that they blame Rachel Reeves' tax rates hitting their growth. We are seeing this growing pessimism, aren't we, around business? How do we instill some positivity and some confidence?
Yeah, it is really worrying, and I worry that we are in what I think we'll term as Rachel's recession, because the reality is that the change that you've seen in business confidence, bear in mind that at the beginning of last year, the UK was actually growing, and it was growing at the fastest rate in the G7. And what you're seeing in the second half is that you had that sort of very, very miserable rhetoric from the Chancellor. And then this budget, which is huge, the amount of tax rises, the amount of extra borrowing that she put forward in that budget, it's really, really substantial, and it's having a knock-on ramification. So it'll be interesting to see how she changes that mood and that rhetoric in her speech this week, because, I am seriously worried about the indicators that we're seeing from businesses.
But Dame Harriet, she says she has to grow the economy. How would you grow the economy?
Well, the economy was growing in the first half of last year. And I think the way you grow the economy is you back businesses. It's people who bring in investment, people who bring in the money to create jobs and growth that drive an economy. And so it's almost the exact opposite of the kind of things that the Chancellor did in her October budget. In October, she added taxes to jobs, and she announced that she was going to borrow substantially more, which of course drives up the cost of borrowing for those private sector investors. So she's giving a textbook example of how you can't create jobs by extra spending, taxes and borrowing, which is what she announced last October on such a scale. And so it's rowing back on that I would like to see her announce this week.
Well, the economy was discussed yesterday on the phone between Keir Starmer and Trump, their first phone call since the inauguration. And Keir Starmer was talking about the economy, talking about deregulating to boost growth. How concerned are you about tariffs?
Well, I think everyone from the economics profession will tell you that tariffs are bad for everyone. They're bad for the people who have the tariffs imposed on them. They're bad for the country that imposes the tariffs. And that the way that you increase prosperity and investment is by trying to reduce some of those barriers. So I'm delighted to see that it wasn't discussed yesterday, that we don't seem to be in the tariff firing line at the moment. But I think we've got to be, as a country, as a global trading nation, one that articulates the case for not having tariffs. And I'm very pleased that when the Chancellor gave evidence to the Treasury Committee earlier this year, she also made that point. So I think we've got to be a strong voice for free trade around the world.
Thanks for your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Dame Harriet Baldwin, thank you.
Thank you.
Harriet Baldwin is the Shadow Minister for Business.
Well, let us know what you made of that interview, gbnews.com/yoursay. Now, it's very blustery out there. It's set to continue. Let's have a look at the details, shall we, with Marco.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some dry weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low-pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather. So across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK. But as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK. And again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells, not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M876 in Falkirk is closed southbound from Junction 1 at Denny to the M80 because of an accident. They're accused from Junction 2 at Larbert. In County Down, the A24 is closed along Church Street in Ballynahinch, and the A51 closed along Tandragee Road at Guildford because of fallen trees. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way well to Cliff, where a lorry's broken down. On the M6 in the West Midlands is a lane closed for emergency repairs on the northbound exit at Junction 6 at Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, causing delays. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed anti-clockwise at Junction 20 at Kings Langley after an accident with queues a couple of miles back beyond Junction 21A. The M40 in Buckinghamshire is blocked southbound just before Junction 4 at High Wycombe, causing queues. On the M4 in Berkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound between Junctions 5 and 4B towards the M25, 3 miles of queues towards there. In Devon, the A303 is closed at Pottery because of flooding.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Don't miss out, as lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost. Good luck.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/.
For initially refusing to accept illegal immigrants sent by America. Is it time for us to follow suit and talk tough?
Yeah, a trade war started and ended in a matter of hours yesterday. Trump threatening a 25% and then a 50% tariff. White House going to be calling this a very big win.
The King is set for a moving visit to Auschwitz today. We're there live, 80 years after the concentration camp was liberated.
We need to speak up. The government should take a very strong action now, before it's too late.
I'm live from Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp where 1.1 million people were murdered by the Nazi regime. This afternoon, the King and other world leaders will join survivors for a special commemorative service.
The Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before his deadly attack.
Rachel Reeves feels the pressure as businesses across the country push the Chancellor to get the economy moving.
And in sport this morning, OK, Spurs lost again at home to a struggling Leicester City, putting Ange Postecoglou under even more pressure. Ruben Amorim would rather his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach played rather than Marcus Rashford as they beat Fulham. And Yannick Sinner wins the Australian Open, but is a doping ban on the way.
Hello, good morning. I'm afraid we've got a very unsettled day to come across the UK today. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain pretty much nationwide, coupled with blustery winds too. I'll have all the details later.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Monday morning. You're starting your day with us here on GB News. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie. Eamonn, you're in trouble for saying you don't like beavers. Gary's been in touch saying, sorry, Eamonn, for once I'm going to have to disagree with you. I'm a huge fan of beavers. And Caroline says, Eamonn, beavers reduce flooding.
Really?
They build natural upstream defences that slow water down, hence reduces flooding downstream where it's heavily populated.
Whatever.
Why do you not like beavers?
It's not, I don't like beavers. Look, we haven't had beavers in this country for 100 years. Has it made a darn bit of difference to your life? No, it's made no difference to your life. Yes. So why are you interrupting for?
I'm just wondering. I didn't know. I just thought that you don't like beavers.
I didn't say I didn't like beavers.
I've obviously hit a nerve,
I don't see
though, haven't
the
I?
point of them. I just
you don't see the point of a beaver.
You haven't had them in your life, and then maybe
well, according to the report I watched, they're the size of a Labrador dog, right?
They're big.
No, they're not.
They aren't.
They're like a little...
That's this
big.
They're the size of a dog, a Labrador or a Golden Retriever.
That's
right?
this, okay.
They're that size with a massive big tail behind them, and they block and they dam rivers and various things like that. But anyway, if you want them running around your neighbourhood, fine, good luck to you.
There's two missing, actually. There's two little beavers indoors. This is in the sun.
Big beavers.
Beavers the size of dogs.
See, these look more like guinea pigs. But anyway, they've gone missing from an estate in Dorset, and they're saying, please look out for gnawed trees and stumps.
And they'll gnaw your legs as well.
Yeah, they want.
Are they dangerous then?
They've gone missing. I don't know if they've got names. No, I don't think they were, but apparently they're lovely beavers, and they don't want them to come to any harm.
I don't think I've ever met a beaver, to be honest with you.
Oh, Woody and Twiggy.
But yet you're a beaver fan.
I've never said I was a beaver fan. I was asking you whether you were a beaver.
Now, by GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who is live with us from Auschwitz-Birkenau. Morning to you, Cameron, and this is going to be a really personal trip for the King, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, Ellie, and it's one last week. He said he thought it was really important to visit. He will become the first ever British head of state to visit the site of the former Nazi concentration camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau. And arriving here, Ellie, it's really difficult to describe the size and the scale of this place. It was, during the Second World War, a well-organised, efficient, industrial death camp where 1.1 million people were murdered by the Nazi regime, and that was men, women, children and babies, the majority of them gassed on arrival, but others died of starvation and disease as well. And this afternoon, there is a special commemorative service which His Majesty the King will be attending alongside other world leaders and survivors. It's going to be taking place at the front gate here at Birkenau, where the train track took thousands and thousands of people into the camp on these freight carts. And the King is expected to be laying a candle alongside other world leaders and survivors at one of the freight carts, which has been preserved to remind people of the horrors that took place here. One of the survivors is Susan Pollock, who is 94, and she has spoken about her time in the camp and why she thinks it's important that people remember.
These scheduled trains didn't stop anywhere. We could not go out, and we realized then we're trapped. This is not going to be a place of normal situation. Perhaps make it illegal, anti-Semitism, because it's it has the capacity to raise itself like a devil. You know, why should it be allowed?
Well, it was exactly 80 years ago, on the 27th of January 1945, that the 60th Army of the First Ukrainian Front liberated this camp. There were 7,000 survivors of the 1.1 million who were murdered over the course of 3 to 4 years. This morning at Auschwitz I, that is the other camp with the famous gate that reads Arbeit macht frei, which means work makes one free. But the Queen said last week that that represents one of history's greatest and most evil lies. And there are wreaths being laid this morning. The President of Poland will be delivering a speech in the next couple of minutes from Auschwitz I as well. But I've been here in Poland for the last day or so and have been speaking to the Jewish community here in Poland, and they are deeply concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism across the world, particularly since the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel. And I spoke to one young Jewish member of the community whose name is Jana Moila. She is 25 years old, and she spoke of her disappointment and her fear, actually, of pro-Palestine protests taking place today in Krakow, which is the closest main city here in Poland to the Auschwitz concentration camp. This is what she's told me.
It amazed me today. I was coming here, and in the city center there were a protest, Free Palestine, actually, and I was like, oh my God, today, like tomorrow we remember all this massacre in Auschwitz, and of course they have maybe this right to protest any day they want, but it's like I felt like an unrespect, not towards me, but towards the people who died in Auschwitz, towards the survivors who are still alive in Krakow. I'm afraid that there's going to be a bigger even protest, so I think that we have to be more careful tomorrow.
What you see behind me did not happen overnight. It started with small acts of discrimination and hate. And I think a lot of people gathering here this afternoon, one of the main reasons for that is to tell the world what happened here and ensure it doesn't happen again.
Cameron, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to Cameron again later in the programme.
And it's so emotional for the King as well, because his paternal grandmother, Princess Alice, she actually rescued Jews and hid Jews in the war. So, and he's always said he's so proud of his family history and so proud of what she did to save all those lives in Athens.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister and President Trump have agreed to meet soon, following a phone call between the two last night. They discussed the importance of close and warm ties between the UK and the US. But all eyes are on President Trump's trade war with Colombia. He threatened a 25% tariff after they refused to accept returning illegal immigrants.
Well, Colombia quickly rode back, with their foreign ministry stating that the country had overcome the impasse with the US, not only agreeing to accept the migrants, but sending a presidential plane to collect them.
Well, let's get more on this with our reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, if talking tough works, Trump is the master, it appears.
Yeah, it's the shortest trade war in history, I think. This happened over a matter of hours yesterday, as you said. Trump saying, you don't accept these flights, you get a 25% tariff on Colombian goods. He also imposed visa restrictions and travel restrictions on Colombian officials, which, by the way, I think are still in place pending the arrival of that first plane. So the tariffs have been rescinded for now, but there are still some restrictions in place. It's just fascinating. I mean, as you say, does talking tough work here? In this instance, in what I think at less than 90 minutes, Colombia had rowed back on this. Now, there is still some way to go, and like I said, those planes need to land, but just absolutely fascinating. It took, what, a week, less than a week, for the first tariff dispute, the first international dispute to happen under this administration. And it seems to be an effective way of negotiating.
Well, a huge interest in it here on Waking Up today, because a lot of people are thinking, hey, that seems to work. That's a good idea. Why can't we do that?
Yeah, and this is why the Home Office and the government are so keen. We saw these briefings over a few days last week to have let's film the deportation flights in the UK, because they want to say, look, deportations are happening. People just don't believe them. We've heard stop the boats. Now they're trying to say, look, we're starting the flights. And even if you see the numbers, given the record of the last few years, every Everyone in the country, or a large number of people, think, I just don't buy it. So they want to film these flights and prove that it's actually happening. Perhaps some of this rhetoric, is Keir Starmer going to be the sort of character to be as bolshy as this? Perhaps not, but at least it shows that talking tough and acting tough can produce some results, and maybe there are lessons to be learned there.
What do you make of this 45-minute phone call between Keir Starmer and President Trump yesterday? We're told it was very warm between the two.
Yeah, but it's interesting what wasn't discussed. So, 45 minutes, very cordial. The Starmer administration, or the number 10 being quite emollient, which is interesting given how in Trump's first term they were critical in opposition and couldn't work with the Trump administration at all. Now things have changed and they have to get along. But they didn't discuss Chagos. They didn't discuss the appointment of Peter Mandelson as the ambassador to the US. They didn't discuss whether David Miliband would be an appropriate replacement. So there's a lot that wasn't on the table. If you look at the readouts, sort of the press releases from either side, from the White House and from Downing Street is very long, talking about the precise detail of the conversation. You look at the White House one, it's like a paragraph. Also telling that it took a week for this conversation to happen. If there's a special relationship, you would think it would have happened sooner. But nonetheless, I think both sides will be happy that, for now, it's cordial and diplomatic.
And it brings it back to tariffs again, doesn't it? Because in that very short readout that you just mentioned from the White House, there was a focus on promoting a fair bilateral economic relationship. Is that threat of tariffs even there through the niceties, isn't there?
Yes, and also you have this balancing act with the EU as well. The Starmer team looking to align closer with the EU, particularly on trade. And the White House, or the Trump White House, often sees this as a zero-sum game. You're right, if you're closer to them, perhaps you're less interested in working with us on a free trade agreement. You see the noises from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, after leaving Davos. It's a slightly separate point, but it is related. You remember how negative the Starmer team were coming into government, talking about the economy. Before the budget, they were saying it's going to get worse before it gets better, this is going to be painful. Now you see Rachel Reeves saying things like, we need to deregulate, as mentioned, we need to be optimistic, merry England, let's go, invest, and so on. That's happened quite quickly, and I think it's reflective of both the mood in this country, but also how positive the White House has been talking up their own economy, because it does matter. It matters for investor confidence.
Yes.
Adam, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. And we ask you, what do you think about all of this in our poll of the day? Today we're asking, as President Trump gets tough, do you trust our Prime Minister to do what it takes to deport illegal migrants?
Well, if you want to get involved, you can. You can scan the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/poll. And as always, the final result will be announced in Martin Daubney's show later.
In other news on this Monday morning, the Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before his deadly attack. Alex Rudakabana, who murdered 3 young girls and tried to kill 10 others, downloaded an Al-Qaeda training manual and watched graphic footage online just before the stabbing spree. Yvette Cooper says it's unacceptable that such hateful content remains easily available, urging tech companies to take immediate action ahead of new online safety laws in March.
Well, that comes as the government cracks down on online knife sales after it was revealed that Axel Rudakabana purchased his murder weapon on Amazon when he was just 17. Buyers will now need to show photo ID at the point of purchase and again when the knife is delivered, with packages banned from being left on doorsteps.
Lighter and happier matters now, because your chance to become our biggest ever giveaway winner. It's an incredible £50,000 straight to your bank account, and it will finish this week, so get going.
Yep, here are all the details that you need.
There's just 4 days left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Amazing, just the best feeling ever.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. message or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Holocaust Memorial Day today. Let's take you to Auschwitz-Birkenau now. This is live footage of the survivors and their families who are gathering now at Block 11 of the Auschwitz Memorial site. They have been laying candles, laying wreaths and flowers as well. They've just walked up, as you can see in these pictures.
At 4 o'clock this afternoon, in a special tent that will be built over that gate that is so famous to the former Auschwitz camp. And one of the symbols of the commemoration will be a rail car, a freight car, that will stand directly in front of the gate, of course, obviously used to transport the victims to the concentration camp.
And the King is also in Auschwitz-Birkenau today, making history as the first British monarch to ever set foot in Auschwitz. And it's said that he's making that personal pilgrimage today to mark the 80th anniversary of its liberation.
That's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it is, made so in 1979. Maybe you've been, maybe it's had an effect on you. Let us know what you think.
I would say if you ever get an opportunity to go to Auschwitz, if you ever find yourself in Poland and you have some time, it is one of the most important things I think you can do. I would think about it. It's very difficult, it's very, very hard, it's a very still and quiet place. You can't even imagine what took place there. But I think it's so important that we just go and educate ourselves and never, ever forget.
8:20 is the time on this Monday morning. We're going to give you a weather update now.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some dry weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather. So across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK, but as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK, and again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells, not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, with that positive conversation between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump on the phone last night, has the Prime Minister saved the relationship between Britain and the US? We're going to be debating that next.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually...
5% your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, as we've been speaking about this morning, Keir Starmer and Donald Trump had a very warm, very cordial 45-minute phone call, the first that Donald Trump has had with a European leader since the inauguration. And with the phone call seemingly going well, has Keir Starmer saved the special relationship between Britain and the US? That's what we're asking this morning.
Well, we're now joined by American political journalist Laurie Laird, who believes it has, and political commentator David Moore, who believes the special relationship hasn't been saved. That is, David, if there was one in the first place, I do have to say. But let's hear from Laurie as to why she thinks all of this is good news. Good morning, Laurie.
Good morning, Eamonn. Nice to see you. And look, I think this is good news. I think Keir Starmer has managed to, find common cause with Donald Trump and David Lammy as well. And they seem to have realized that complimenting the man, goes some way toward getting into his good books. But, I'd caution both of them. Be careful here. Donald Trump is fickle. Donald Trump, the president of Colombia 24 hours ago, thought he was a good mate of Donald Trump's. Had a little bit of contretemps over flying migrants back to Colombia, a hot threat of tariffs on both sides. That has managed to be resolved. But until then, the Colombian president thought he was a great mate of Donald Trump. So any work that Keir Starmer feels that he has done, he's got to be careful. It may not last that long. And I think the bigger question here, and I think your next guest will talk about this, is what does the UK want out of this relationship? And is a special relationship with the UK or the US worth spoiling a relationship with the EU over?
I think. David? David, have you got us?
Yes.
Yes, what do you make? What do you make of this?
I think this is a classic example of Donald Trump being a realist here. They have a completely different world on values. For starters, Mr. Starmer believes in so-called lawfulness, international order. This notion that the whole international order can be run by NGOs, and the fact that your legal international order can follow silly ideas like handing over the Seychelles Islands to your enemies and paying taxpayers' money in the process, including an important strategic airbase. Obviously, this must not happen, so this is a major hurdle that Starmer's going to have to justify to Mr. Trump. So that's the first thing they disagree on. for months he's been calling out Starmer's lack of defence spending. He's been calling out all NATO members to ensure they pay up to 5%,
So
let alone
is
2%.
it just me or is David's microphone?
I think it's a bit intermittent there, isn't it? Yeah. OK. Laurie, we'll come back to you. What do you make of what you could get there from David?
I'm so disappointed I couldn't hear, because the bits I could hear were absolutely fascinating. So I can't go through too much of that. But I think that if you don't mind my returning to a point I made a couple of minutes earlier, I'm absolutely flabbergasted that the UK is continuing to push this relationship with the US. And we hear this talk about maybe a free trade agreement with the US. We know that Donald Trump isn't a free trader. It feels like chasing a unicorn here, something that may not happen. Meanwhile, even if you take the vexed issue of trade out of the UK's relationship with the EU, there are lots of areas where EU and UK interests coincide. Things like defense. I mean, it seems pretty clear that the UK and Europe are more aligned on what should happen next in Ukraine than perhaps the US is. The UK and the EU have lots to do on energy trading. The UK has the highest energy costs in Europe. Trading more easily with the EU could bring down energy costs, could make the economy more competitive. This is one of Rachel Reeves' goals. So this constant looking to align with the US when there may be better work to do looking in the other direction is something I think this government needs to think about.
Laurie Laird and David Moore, thank you very much for your time this morning.
We'll take a short break there. Paul Coit next with the sport.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M876 in Falkirk is closed southbound from junction 1 for the Check Bar roundabout to the M80 after an accident causing queues towards Glasgow from junction 2 at Larbert. In County Down, the A24 is closed each way along Church Street at Ballinhinch, and the A51 is closed each way along Canterbury Road in Guildford because of fallen trees. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way where a lorry's broken down at Welton Cliff. On the M6 in the West Midlands, there's a lane closed on the northbound exit at junction 6 at Spaghetti Junction, Birmingham, for emergency repairs causing delays. On the M40 in Buckinghamshire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident just before junction 4 at High Wycombe, causing long delays. In London, Lee Valley Road is closed between Ponders End and Chingford after an accident, and in Devon, the A303 is closed off the A30 between the Pottery and Buckland St Mary because of flooding.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Paul here to go through the football yesterday, and a lot of very significant results, good and bad. Bad for Tottenham, your team.
Yes, yeah, it was bad for Tottenham. Spurs 1, Leicester 2. It's really not 15th in the Premier League, Spurs. 13 league defeats. Leicester, who'd had a terrible run. I mean, they had lost 7 on the bounce. So they go to the Spurs Stadium and get a win. And the thing, I know, Ellie, I know you were there.
I was.
But I missed the 2 goals. So I've gone down for half-time. Spurs are 1-0 up, thinking, OK, things are going to be all right.
Looking good, weren't they?
As I'm walking back up to the stand, someone goes, it's 2-1. And I said, are you serious? What, 2-1 to Spurs? They said, no, 2-1 to Leicester. And that's how it stayed for the rest of the game. Now,
it happened in like a 5-minute window, didn't it?
It was. That's exactly what it was. So it's not looking good. As far as Spurs are concerned, since the start of December, only Southampton have lost more games, but can you put your finger on why it is? Is it just because... Is it the tactics? Is it because of the injuries? Is it because of Ange? There's people complaining about the board. But anyway, Ange Postecoglou was spoken to, as he always is, afterwards, sort of someone down there, and this is what he had to say about the loss. Ange.
I've been around long enough to know that some will just judge on where we're at the moment, and rightly so in some respects, and it's not good enough. If people want to sort of put context to that, they can. If not, so be it. But from my point of view, I think I'm still sort of very much stuck on the fact that the players are just giving everything they can. They did on Thursday night, they did tonight. There's probably at least 2 that shouldn't have been out there, but they were just, desperate to try and, like I said, turn our fortunes around.
Huge amount of injuries. I know there's a lot of people thinking that probably he's going to get the elbow if it's going to happen today, but I do not think it will happen, and I don't think it probably would be the right decision to do that, well, at the moment anyway, because who else is going to come in? And I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's a League Cup semi-final which is coming up. There's games in Europe. Those cups are going well, the league isn't, so I don't think it'll be going anywhere.
Meanwhile, Manchester United's results as bad as Spurs. There's a lot of comparisons between the form of the 2 teams.
Yeah.
But I don't think the manager's in doubt there.
No, I don't think he is. And it's early days, isn't it? I mean, it's a bad start. You've got to give managers time, especially when they come in. So Ruben Amorim, though, I mean, he's a personality, isn't he? I like the way he talks.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether he just wears his heart on his sleeve and then sort of regrets things that he might say in a press conference. But I do like him. But he was speaking about, he was asked about Marcus Rashford. And Marcus Rashford, again, left out of the side, left out of the squad. Is he going to go? Marcus Rashford says he's now going to stick around and fight for his place because he's on about 350 grand a week. Yeah. And the chances are nobody's going to pay that money. But this is Ruben Amorim when that subject was brought up.
Same situation for every player. If you do the maximum, if you do the right things, we can use every player. And you can see it today on the bench. We miss a little bit like pace to go, to change the game, to move some pieces, but I prefer like that. I will put Vital before I put a player that don't give the maximum every day. So I will not change in that department.
Now he's referring to the goalkeeper coach at Manchester United, who's 63 years old, and saying that he would rather put him in if the player, without saying who it is, although we kind of know who it is, if they don't put the work in training, then he would rather have someone who's 63 years old playing.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
So, Eamonn, you're playing up front next week. Congratulations.
OK, so what other games yesterday?
Villa drew with West Ham. Jacob Ramsey put Villa ahead. Credit to West Ham when they equalised. They because it was all Aston Villa, then West Ham came back, nearly won it right at the very end, but there was a disallowed goal. So Villa in 8th, West Ham up to 13th, Crystal Palace 1, Brentford 2 was the other result as well.
And so the big tennis tournaments come to an end in Australia.
Jannik Sinner. So Jannik Sinner wins again, and he won it last year. By the way, Alexander Zverev. Now, this is, I mean, if you're going to say why you lost, Alexander Zverev was very honest, and this is what he said after losing to Sinner in the final of the Australian Open. So why did he lose? This is the reason.
I'm serving better than him, but that's it. He does everything else better than me. He moves better than me. He hits his forehand better than me. He hits his backhand better than me. He returns better than me. He volleys better than me. So at the end of the day, I mean, tennis has probably 5 or 6 massive shots, like massive factors, and he does 4 or 5 of them better than me. So, and that's the reason why he won, and he deserved to win today.
You've got to give it to him. That's honest.
Fair enough.
I like the
Exactly.
honesty.
I like that too. His backhand's better than me, his forehand's better than me, everything else is better than me. My serve's OK, but the rest of it is better than me, so he deserves to win, and that's the end
Nobody's
of it.
better than you. That's the whole
Absolutely
thing.
nobody is.
Thank you very much indeed.
No.
Paul, we've got to leave it there. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Still to come, we're going to be going through the papers with Dawn Newsome and Christopher Biggins. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. The south of Europe looks pretty unsettled over the next few days. Rain at times in most areas and windy in places too. So looking at things in more detail for Tuesday, the Canaries and Madeira, mostly fine, 1 or 2 showers but some sunshine too. Some persistent outbreaks of rain across parts of Spain, southern France into Italy, even some snow across the Alps. So it's the southeast of Europe set to see the best of the conditions. As we head into Tuesday and Wednesday, we hold on to fairly unsettled weather, but something a bit quieter later in the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Estelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This was thought to be a Ruskin. Ruskin was a very considerable polymath, an artist as well as many other things. So do you know why it was submitted for reappraisal? Was there a bit of a suspicion that it had been misidentified?
No, as you say, you know, it's a service that Christys offer. You can submit an artwork that you have, so anyone can submit it and request an estimate, and then the auction house's appraisal service allows you space as well to describe it and ask for evaluation. And Christys sort of looked at it behind the sheet of dirty old glass and recognised a sort of Turner-esque mood and feel and ambience about it. And because there was this close relationship between Ruskin and Turner, which is fascinating, we'll come on to that shortly, but they sort of felt, well, the brushstrokes are very strong, the line is very economic, and the colour of the palette seems to be rather Turner-esque. And then they called in a specialist paper historian who confirmed that actually the paper that was used was one that Turner favoured himself. So yes, it was originally considered to be by Ruskin, but then we discovered something more magnificent. And don't forget what's really interesting. Now it's for sale. The lucky buyer is not just buying a picture. The lucky buyer is buying a life story, a relationship that actually changed the course of art history because of the relationship between Ruskin and Turner themselves.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're delighted to welcome back, going through the newspapers again, Christopher Biggins and Dawn Newsome. Christopher, worrying about scammers, first of all.
Yeah, I'd like to tell this to your viewers because I think it's so worrying. I've recently, apparently in 1991, I took out an insurance on my computer, which I have no recollection of at all. But recently, I've had a foreign voice ring me and say, unless I pay the £1,000 immediately, they'll take it out of my bank account.
They wouldn't have access to your bank account.
No, they have no access to my bank account. And what you should do, to begin with, you feel frightened. And you think, my God, £1,000 coming up, what do I do? And then Neil, my partner, said, just ignore it. And that's what you've got to do, but they are persistent.
So threatening as well.
And we changed we changed the number and everything, and still they managed to get through to you. And we told the bank not to accept any £1,000 checks, something like that. But it is awful. But I say to your viewers and listeners, please, please ignore these phone calls.
Yes.
Even if at the end of the day it's true and they do come and collect £1,000 legally, don't do anything about it. Just ignore it.
Yeah. I think there's an organisation you can phone which is anti-scammer.
Is there?
They can do a lot of this stuff for you. I'm no help to you because I don't know what it is.
Well, I might look into that because it is worrying, you know, to begin with, and then they are so persistent.
Yeah.
That is the thing.
My mum had a similar thing the other day, and this is a good tip to remember. And her bank rang her up and said it was her bank, and they needed to get into her account immediately because someone had hacked her account and they were taking her money out. So it's automatically the panic.
Yeah.
You're losing money.
Yeah.
And they said, just share the one-time password that's about to come to your phone. And at that point, she went, no, you should never share your one-time password.
No.
Anybody asks you to do that, it's a scam.
No,
Phone
exactly.
down. So just a good one to remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, OK. Dawn, 4 million face a monster hike to their council tax. Why is that? Explain it to me. Front page of the Mail today. I haven't got the Mail.
Yeah, you stole my mail earlier on.
What? No, I didn't take it. We were looking for it there. We haven't got it.
Yeah, basically, at the moment, councils have a limit on, they can increase your council tax by 5%. But there is a way round it. There's a loophole. And if a council declares itself bankrupt, they can put your council tax rates up to whatever they want. Oh.
Can they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh.
And there are, I think, about 7 or 8 councils. I think Windsor and Eton is one of the worst ones, where they're putting it up by 20%. Which, I mean, considering council tax bills are high enough as it is, they could, you know, see an extra sort of like, you know, £500-600 going onto your bill without you having to say anything about it. As the rules stand at the moment, if a council wants to put it up by over 5%, they have to have a referendum amongst the local council members. But if they declare themselves bankrupt, then they don't have to do that. They can circumvent that. And there's about 8 councils in this country that are on the verge of doing that. And Angela Rayner has the final say over whether they can or not. So, but you might not even know it's happening until you get that bill through your door. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, we're being charged now for our green waste.
Oh, yeah, so we...
You know, the dustbin for that. And then what happens is our dustbin gets stolen. You know, because somebody wants that dustbin because it's got a mark on it that's yours.
And you pay for it.
And you pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite expensive, too. They're demanding
what do
everything.
they spend the money? I mean, we're quite lucky where we are, but I mean, what do they spend the money on? I don't actually see any improvement in local
limousines
services.
to drive them around in.
Yeah.
Now, because talking about driving around in, here's a story in The Sun, and it talks about a woman who flew to Spain and back again to Britain to buy a new car.
A Skoda.
Right, tell us the story.
Well, she found a good deal in Spain to buy a Skoda, much cheaper than at home. So she thought, well, we'll go there.
Is it a left-hand drive?
Well, presumably they do a right-hand drive. I don't know. I mean, but anyway, whatever. She thought it was a good bargain. So she looked into getting a train there, and the train was £200 a person one way. Mm-hmm. So what she did was she decided to take it, pick up the new car, flying to Spain. No, hang on, have I got this right? No.
The car was for sale in the north of the country.
Yes, I know, but I was just... Was the train cheaper or was the flight cheaper?
We don't know. You're explaining this.
Basically, it was a couple and they lived down in the southwest and they saw a car for sale up in the north. They thought, we're going to buy the car. So to pick the car up, they looked into getting the train up there. It's £200 each.
Yes.
So they found an airfare that involved going from where they live in the southwest to Malaga in Spain and then flying to the north. And that was £154 for the two of them.
Yes,
so
absolutely right.
So it did basically, train fares are ridiculously expensive in this country. It's cheaper to fly via Spain to get from the southwest of the country to the north of the country.
But trains are so lovely. And also, you know, in Europe, you can get really cheap trains. We're going to...
They run on time.
They run on time. We're going on the Eurostar to Paris to see a show, Hello, Dolly. And it's very exciting going on a train. I love
like train travel.
They're marvellous.
Why are you going to Paris to see Hello, Dolly?
Because a great friend of mine is...
Is it in French?
No, it's in English. And they have French subtitles. But a friend of mine two friends of mine are playing the leads in it, so we're going to have a nice outing and see...
Friends in the right places.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's lovely. We also want to go to Notre Dame. Yes, which you can do, and you can, except the queues are quite long, because everybody wants to. But it's very exciting. But no, I'm sorry I got that story slightly wrong and confusing. But it was cheaper to take a flight.
Exactly. Trains are very expensive.
Yeah.
And
how long have we got left?
4.5 minutes.
Oh, right.
So, Dawn, have a look at this story in the Telegraph. Police officers are told not to say the word blacklisted.
Oh, this is one of those stories that you just is going to irritate everybody. I mean, because it is irritating. Yeah, this is the what force is it? The Bedfordshire Police and Hertfordshire and Cambridgeshire Constabularies have issued a guideline, 9-page document for staff, 2023 diversity guide, and it says that you are have to be careful. The language you say pregnant person rather than pregnant woman, and you have to avoid Christian-centric language such as faith, and you are also obviously not allowed to use words like black sheep, blacklisted, in case it upsets black people. No mention of the word whitewash upsetting white people, obviously. I mean, it's just, you know, when you've got Trump over in
I'd like
America,
to know from a black person, does it actually offend them?
Well, they've got an interview with Festus Akua, who's the UK's first black police and crime commissioner, and he is just saying this is absolute nonsense.
Yes.
And it's our money that's organising this as well. And, you know, you think the ordinary bobbies on the beat are just shrugging and going, this is ridiculous, we just want to go on with our jobs. But it's you know, and Hertfordshire Police say, you know, we confirm this is true. Our forces serve diverse communities and we are pleased to have an inclusive, culturally intelligent workforce. Meanwhile, in America, you've got Trump actually taking a knife to the whole diversity, inclusion thing and getting rid of them in all the state departments.
But nowadays, you have to be so careful what you say. I mean, it is impossible. I mean, years ago, I would touch a woman's bottom and you know, and give it a little squeeze, and that would be fun.
You definitely couldn't do that now.
No, but it was wonderful because we had a bit of fun. You know,
GB News would like to disassociate itself from any remarks made by Mr. Biggins. There. Can you get away with that because you're gay?
Yes, I think I can. And also, I'm nice. You know, but I used to do it all the time.
Lots of people who are not gay who do that.
And I would go around the front as well.
You've never done that to me, Biggins. All the years we've worked together now, you've never touched my bum.
Oh, no,
let's touch breakfast instead. So all this health food that we're supposed to take, like granola and various things like that.
Do you like yogurt?
I like only a certain type of yogurt. I don't like thick yogurts.
Not thick yogurt.
Yeah. I have that at home, all that stuff, the yogurt and the granola and Weetabix, which I love.
I like Weetabix.
But at home, when I go to a hotel, I love a full English.
OK. And certain people are saying that a full English can be healthier for you.
Absolutely. Well, I think it probably can. You've got eggs and bacon, lovely eggs. beans, which have to be quite good for. I love baked beans.
If you cook it in the right way, so
Yes.
it's not really a fry, but if you're grilling everything, there's nothing wrong with the items on the plate.
That's the trick. If you grill it and you don't sort of like, have too much of it, then it can be healthier. If you're having yoghurt and honey and granola and certainly if you're diabetic, type 2 diabetic, there's an awful lot of sugar involved in that. And calorie-wise can be just as much if you are counting calories.
Actually, what we had on
tastes so much better.
on Saturday, we had, because it was Burns night, we had haggis.
Ooh.
Yeah, very nice.
Which was delicious.
Yeah.
And we had some friends who were really anxious about it.
No. It's nice stuff.
It's lovely.
Tell me about this difference between cats and dogs. Cats make the best traitors. What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, unfortunately, neither you nor I have watched it, but the BBC series Traitors has just finished, and it inspired a pet company called Burns Pet Nutrition to do a survey between cat and dog owners as which were the most faithful and which were most likely to be traitors, which is evidently how the show works. And surprise, surprise, most cat owners said that cats were more likely to be traitors, while dogs are more faithful. It's hardly shocking news, but it is a bit of fun, to be honest. Nearly 2/3 of dog owners said Fido was always faithful compared to fewer than half of cat owners.
Lovely.
No-brainer, really.
OK, guys, thank you both very much indeed for today. Very entertaining, very informative.
Yes.
Thank you both very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
The weather situations, all I remember is the weather's grey. Every day it's grey,
Very
grey,
windy.
grey. And it was last weekend. Let's see what it's doing today.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some drier weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather. So across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK, but as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK, and again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well. With the lighter winds in any brighter spells not feeling too bad, with temperatures ranging from 6 to 10 Celsius, 10 down towards the southwest there is 50 in Fahrenheit.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M876 in Falkirk is closed southbound from junction 1 at the Check Bar roundabout to the M80 after an accident causing queues towards Glasgow. Back beyond junction 2 at Larbert in County Down. The A24 is closed each way along Church Street at Ballynahinch, and the A51 is closed each way along Tandragee Road in Guildford because of fallen trees. On the M60 in Greater Manchester, the clockwise entry slip road's closed at junction 19 at Heaton Park because of flooding. The M180 in Lincolnshire is partly blocked westbound by an accident between junctions 3 and 1 from Scunthorpe to Bawtry, causing queues. Also in Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at Welton Cliff, where a lorry's broken down. On the M40 in Buckinghamshire, there's a lane closed southbound just before junction 4 at High Wycombe after an accident causing long delays. And in Devon, the A303 is closed each way off the A30 between the Pottery and Butland St Mary because of flooding.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Don't miss out, as lines close on Friday. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Call one. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Sent back home by America. Is it time for Britain to follow suit?
Yes, a trade war that lasted less than 24 hours. Colombia backing down. The White House will be calling this a big win for the Trump administration.
Never again, never forget. The King is set for a moving visit to Auschwitz today, 80 years after the concentration camp was liberated, as survivors share their stories.
We need to speak up. The government should take a very strong action now, before it's too late.
I'm live from Auschwitz-Birkenau, where 1.1 million people were murdered by the Nazi regime. This afternoon, the King will join other world leaders and survivors for a special commemorative service.
The Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before his deadly attack.
Rachel Reeves feels the pressure as businesses across the country push the Chancellor to get the economy moving. The opposite are calling for more concrete action.
You're seeing in the numbers how business confidence has fallen, how businesses are cutting jobs, and she needs to do something, much more substantive to row back on some of the bad decisions she made in that budget.
Hello, good morning. I'm afraid we've got a very unsettled day to come across the UK today. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain pretty much nationwide, coupled with blustery winds too. I'll have all the details later.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Monday morning. Thank you for your company. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Loads of you talking about Auschwitz-Birkenau today, Holocaust Memorial Day today. Ian says Auschwitz-Birkenau is a must for all young people. Has a strange atmosphere, and I've never heard one bird sing. It is humbling and full of sadness, a reminder of what might have been for this world.
Well, King Charles is set to visit Auschwitz today to mark Holocaust Memorial Day.
It's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the largest Nazi concentration camp. While commemorations will remember the 6 million Jews that were killed during the Holocaust, as world leaders and survivors gather at the site.
We're joined now by our royal correspondent Cameron Walker, live from Auschwitz. Cameron?
Good morning, Eamonn. Well, it's really difficult to describe the scale and size of Auschwitz-Birkenau behind me. It truly was well organised at the heart of World War II, well organised, an industrial death camp which took the lives, murdered 1.1 million people over the course of the Second World War. The vast majority were Jews, but also Roma, Polish political prisoners of war, and Soviet prisoners of war as well. And that was men, women, children and babies. A vast majority of them murdered in gas chambers on arrival, the others interred in this camp, many others dying of disease disease and starvation as well. And this afternoon, we are expecting a commemorative service to take place. The King Charles, alongside other world leaders, and we think around 50 survivors will be gathered here at the gates of Birkenau, where that infamous railway track runs through it, where people were taken in tightly packed freight trains into the Auschwitz camp. The King and other world leaders will be laying a candle during that service. But this morning we were in Auschwitz I, the first camp, with that infamous gate which reads Arbeit macht frei, which translating into English means work will set you free. Well, in the words of Queen Camilla last week, those words represent one of history's greatest and most evil lies. And survivors were laying wreaths alongside the Polish President Duda earlier today at the site of the death wall, and that is where the SS, the military arm of the Nazi party, shot dead thousands and thousands of prisoners in that war before Birkenau was built. But many are wondering why 80 years to the day that Birkenau were liberated, why we still need to remember. And you spoke of young people there, Ellie, needing to remember. And I spoke to one young person, Jana, in Krakow yesterday. That's the nearest major city, really, in Poland here to the site of the former Nazi concentration camp. And she spoke to me about her fear of the rise in anti-Semitism, particularly since the Hamas attacks of October 7th. And she's worried really about protests taking place today in Krakow on a day that 80 years ago Auschwitz was liberated. Take a listen.
It amazed me today. I was coming here, and in the city center there were a protest, Free Palestine actually, and I was like, oh my God, today, like tomorrow we remember all this massacre in Auschwitz, and of course they have maybe this right to protest any day they want, but it's like I felt like an unrespect, not towards me, but towards the people who died in Auschwitz, towards the survivors who are still alive in Krakow. I'm afraid that there's going to be a bigger even protest.
All his life.
Now it's 7 minutes past 9. The Prime Minister and President Trump have agreed to meet up soon following a phone call between the two leaders last night.
Well, they discussed the importance of close and warm ties between Britain and America, but all eyes are on the president's trade war with Colombia overnight. So what happened there?
Well, he threatened a 25% tariff on the country after they refused to accept returning illegal migrants.
And you know what? It worked. Colombia quickly backtracked on this. Their foreign ministry said the country had overcome the impasse with the US, not only agreeing to accept the migrants, but sending the president's own plane, that means the president of Colombia's own plane, to collect them.
Let's get more on this. Our reporter Adam Cherry, who joins us in the studio now. Good to see you, Adam.
Good morning.
And this is clearly the way that President Trump wants to do business.
Yeah, absolutely. It took less than a week for this to all kick off. It's extraordinary, isn't it? As you said, it only took, a matter of hours for this to start and end, this trade war, which, 25%, then 50% tariffs on Colombian imports. Then suddenly the president says, oh, I can't do this. Let's take them in. I'll even use my plane. Yeah. Extraordinary stuff. Now, there are going to be questions as pertaining to our country, to Britain. Does this reflect, or rather does this show, that the UK needs to be a little bit tougher on this, and that this sort of language and behaviour works? I'm not sure you'll ever see Keir Starmer act in this way and try to impose tariffs on people. But it is interesting that when you talk to Labour sources, and we had some briefings on this last week, they were saying they need to film the deportation flights, which they insist are taking off, but people just don't believe them because they've had so much failure on this topic for so many years.
Yeah.
So this is now clearly the direction of travel.
This is exciting people. People just think, well, this is the answer to this problem. Yeah. But as you quite rightly say, our system is different. Our leader, our Prime Minister, is different on this, and it's not going to happen here.
No, it's not in the same way. Absolutely not. But as I say, given that they are now trying to film this and prove that it is happening, they clearly understand, as you point out, that it's so important to people. Yeah. And there's such a lack of trust in this country on this topic. So even if the mechanics of government are slightly different here, and that he can't sign executive orders or whack tariffs on everybody just like that in a matter of hours, there are ways you can make this work, particularly in terms of rhetoric.
We're told that this 45-minute phone call was a very warm one between the pair, but Interesting, actually, the points that weren't touched upon. It seemed to deliberately avoid any point of conflict.
Yeah, so you look at the readouts, which are sort of the press releases from both sides. You look at what the White House said and what Downing Street said, both reflecting, basically saying the same thing, but one was a lot longer than the other. Downing Street, really clear to emphasise how warm and productive this relationship was. White House, a little bit more terse, but you're right. In either instance, nothing on Chagos, nothing on Peter Mandelson's appointment as the British ambassador to Washington. There's reportedly some grumblings within the Trump administration about that. Also, potentially David Miliband getting that appointment as well. So there are points of contention which have just been avoided. It was more of a personal phone call. At least, so it seems. 45 minutes, however long the readout is, it's not going to reflect the full extent of that conversation. So perhaps there are some points of disagreement which, out of a sense of diplomacy, weren't mentioned. We don't necessarily know yet. But they are planning to meet soon. They met before Trump was in office. They met in September at Trump Tower. That was supposedly a productive and well-meaning conversation. But there are those political differences and also those personal differences from when Keir Starmer was in opposition. There's a whole... we know this. There are reams of tweets and statements from Starmer and Foreign Secretary David Lammy and others criticising Trump. Now, I think Trump is transactional. If you shake his hand and play nice, he can forgive you. But we know he's pretty capricious as well, and he can change on a sixpence. So it'll be interesting to watch this develop.
He's the important one. America's the important one. That's what comes first with his book, and that's what he does. But very interesting. Adam, appreciate that. Thanks for the roundup. We'll leave it there. These are other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning. The Home Secretary has warned online platforms they must act now to remove violent content after the Southport killer accessed extremist material before his deadly attack. Axel Rudakabana, who murdered 3 young girls and tried to kill 10 others, downloaded an Al-Qaeda training manual and watched graphic footage online just before the stabbing spree. Yvette Cooper says it's unacceptable that such hateful content remains easily available, and she's urged the tech companies to take immediate action ahead of new online safety laws to be announced in March.
Well, that comes as the government cracks down on online knife sales after it was revealed that Axel Rudakabana purchased his murder weapon on Amazon when he was just 17. Buyers will need to show photo ID at the point of purchase and again when the knife is delivered, with packages banned from being left on doorsteps.
We've got the Great British Giveaway, of course. This is the last week, so this is important that you listen up.
Yes, £50,000 up for grabs, totally tax-free. You can spend it how you like. Here are all of the details that you need.
There's just 4 days left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far, £50,000 in tax-free cash. How would you react if you won?
We won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Amazing, just the best feeling ever.
For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, the government is cracking down on the sale of knives, with photo ID needing to be shown at the point of purchase and delivery.
I'm Patrick Christys. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Claiming that Brazilian tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay, when actually a different Brazilian tennis player was actually mentioned in the original story. So what it does is you see that it's branded as BBC Sport. What the Apple AI system does is it farms alerts that it thinks people are getting from the source and then summarises them into one alert.
It looks to me like
you would assume, OK, the BBC are reporting this.
Absolutely.
Or
so the BBC
GB News might be saying something else.
So it could happen to any news organisation.
This has highlighted a massive issue. I mean, having editorial judgment and quality control, because if this is going on, it's just contributing to the flow of misinformation.
Yes.
And we know that this is a problem on social media, people reporting false things. But if it seems to come from trusted news sources, that is a massive issue in credibility. I mean, if you had something like Reuters, who's a big news provider, doing this, you could hold people accountable, you could make changes, but when it's the AI doing it, I mean, what do? You're going to have to reprogram it in some way.
And if you just lost control, if you're a news source, you've lost control of what goes out, because it basically farms it, puts your logo on it and sends it out even when it's nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
"17 minutes past 9 o'clock, and the government is cracking down on online knife sales.
After it was revealed that Axel Rudakabana purchased his murder weapon on Amazon when he was just 17.
Well, if you try to buy a knife, you'll need to show photo ID at the point of purchase, and again when the knife is delivered if you've ordered it online, with packages having to be claimed at the front door as well, with identification also being shown there.
Well, we're now joined by Chair of Communities Against Violence, Ken Hines. Good to see you this morning, Ken. And do you think this will make any difference?
I welcome any measures that's going to have an impact on a knife crime, but unfortunately, I don't believe that this will, because even that young man who committed that savagery had other knives in his room that he did not purchase online. So for that reason, I don't think that that's going to be effective to make a change in women.
Well, this is the thing. If a young person wants a knife so badly, you'd imagine they'd just go to the kitchen and grab one out of the drawer.
There you go. Or they can even get someone else, like who's involved in the gang violence, to purchase it on their behalf. So there's many different ways. I think it's not the knife that's a problem, it's a person who's holding a knife that's the issue. And if we really want to be effective, I believe that by having programs for people who get caught with a knife to deal with around about conflict resolution and emotional well-being would be much more impactful than what we have today.
Yeah, you know, I thought, Ken, that there would be some sort of statement made, people who carry knives, but you look at Axel Rudakabana, and it's a kitchen knife you're talking about. It's not anything ceremonial. It's not, you know, deliberately ostentatious, whatever. It's dangerous. It's lethal, obviously. But as Ellie was saying, it can be found in anyone's kitchen.
That's right. And as I said beforehand, it's generally the substantial amount of knives that are used in murders comes from the kitchen rather than online. So this here is just semantic than anything else. And I'm just really would hope the government will get on top of things and look about the underlying issues around why people feel the need to carry knives and other weapons.
What would you do, Ken? What would you do that would be tougher, that would be more effective?
As I pointed out beforehand, I'm part of a group called also a Band of Brothers, and what we have for the young men is a rite of passage, and we deal with some of these troubling young men, and what we show them is that their triggers is not the person who they want to confront, but their triggers come from early childhood trauma, and to tackle it, to get them to recognize early childhood trauma, and to have effective tools to prevent them from getting that red mist. When that red mist comes up, that they're able to deal with it more effectively. We cannot, you cannot arrest your way or lock your way up, lock people up to stop this. We've got to deal with their mental
And I'm sure, Ken, when
well-being, to let them know that they can have challenges in life. Yeah.
And I'm sure, Ken, when you're talking to young people as well, there are young boys predominantly who are carrying knives with absolutely no intention of ever using them, but they know that who they might encounter on the street has a knife, and they'll have it with them for self-defence.
That's not necessarily the case. They're saying they're carrying it for self-defence, but as soon as they have a confrontation with anybody, it doesn't care who they are, they will pull that knife out. So they won't pull it out on the person who they thought that they were carrying, that they're protecting themselves from. But if they get into an argument or have a confrontation with anybody, that's the perfect storm when they have the knife and they've got very little time to think about the consequences. If they had to go home and get the knife and come back and do something, they've got time to stop and think. But if you've got it on you, you've got very little reaction time to stop and safeguard yourself.
And I can understand that situation that you described there. What I find it harder to understand, Ken, though, is actually using. And when we heard about Rudy Cabana and what he did, he stabbed people a lot. He used that knife a lot into
someone that's going into flesh. Because that must be horrendous, not even going in, but the reaction from the victim who's on the receiving end, the screams and everything else. It beggars belief that, anyone could do that to one person, but he tried to do that to many people. Yeah. So again, it beggars belief how that could. I couldn't put my head in his mind to see what he was thinking.
Got to leave it there, Ken. Thanks very much for your contribution. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Britain's Newsroom is coming up at 9:30. Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates are here to tell us all about it. Morning, you two.
Good morning.
Morning.
What have you got coming up in the programme?
Well, lots of different things. Obviously, we'll be covering Holocaust Memorial Day, King Charles over in Auschwitz. We've also got a brand new report from the Centre for Social Justice about mental health, which has got some staggering statistics. 1 in 5 adults are now on antidepressants, but the vast majority of GPs think it's being over-medicalised, and they are prescribing antidepressants because they don't know what else to do. But actually, there should be many, many other solutions out there.
Why are they prescribing them if that's what they think?
Because they think that, because I think the thinking is that the problem is people are worried about work, they've had breakdown in relationships. These are things that GPs themselves can't fix. But, they've got a patient sitting in front of them, what do they do?
Tell them to put themselves together.
Yeah, you'd be a great bedside manner.
You'd be great GP. Well, that's all coming up at 9:30. That's it from us. We are back from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Have yourselves a good day.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. For the day today, we hold on to unsettled weather across the UK. Lots of showers around, quite blustery winds too. Low pressure sitting just to the west of the UK as we go through the day, and that will feed a band of showers north and eastwards across all parts. Some of the showers merging at times to some persistent bursts of rain, even giving a bit of winteriness across the hills of Scotland. Very blustery winds out and about. We could well see gales in places, particularly across some southern and southwestern coasts, and some of the heaviest rain likely across parts of Wales. Temperatures aren't too bad, reaching values close to the seasonal average in the range 6 to 9 Celsius, but add on the effect of the very unsettled conditions and it's not going to feel very pleasant out and about at all. Heading into the evening and through the overnight period, well, to end the day, there'll be some brightness across the central part of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country it's very showery. Some of those showers quite heavy, accompanied by breezy conditions too. For Northern Ireland, lots of showers around as well. Some dry weather between the showers, but on the whole, pretty unsettled here. And quite a few showers across parts of Wales into the southwest of England. So to end the day on Monday, the best of the clear weather will be likely across the southeast of the UK. Heading into the overnight period, though, that low pressure system that's out towards the west continues to dominate the weather. So across all parts of the UK, further showers or more persistent spells of rain are likely. Again, there could be a bit of winteriness across the highest ground towards the north of Scotland, and wherever you are, quite a blustery picture across the UK, still with some gales across some southern coasts. Temperatures holding up fairly well, so a mostly frost-free night as we go into Tuesday morning. As for Tuesday itself, well, there is a benefit in the fact that the winds will start to ease down with low pressure sitting right over the top of the UK. But as you'll notice from the graphics there, it does stay very unsettled. There'll be further showers to come across most parts of the UK. And again, some of those showers could well merge to give some longer spells of rain, the rain turning quite heavy in places as well.